Chapter was 71. Did anyone see when it appeared? Liang Yan asked. Ningqiu Shui shook his head, explaining, When I saw it, it was already standing there. Both of their expressions turned grave. Perhaps in the outside world, every strange phenomenon could be explained by science, but within the Crimson Door, anything abnormal could be truly abnormal. Neither of them immediately told anyone about this. After everyone finished their phone calls, they discovered another peculiarity, that the other four were very obedient and understanding. They had clearly been harassed by some supernatural phenomena recently. Upon hearing that everyone wanted to protect them, they were overjoyed, as if grasping at a lifeline. Of course, everyone had also fabricated false identities for themselves, claiming to be a paranormal investigation team from some department, and that they had official status. It was evident that something was definitely hidden within these four people, to the point where they believed even such absurd claims. It seems things are more troublesome than we thought. Although that ghost hasn't touched them yet, it's probably been harassing them for a while now. Mu Yunying had made her own calls. From the other party's responses, she had sensitively detected many hidden pieces of crucial information. She had confirmed that all four protected targets had seen the ghost that wanted to kill them, and more than once. This matter shouldn't be delayed. Let's go meet them quickly. But there shouldn't be too many people. I suggest each group send one representative. If 19 of us suddenly barge into someone's home, I'm afraid it will draw attention and bring unnecessary trouble. Everyone agreed with this view. They immediately selected representatives from their groups to accompany Mu Yunying to meet the protected targets. Are they all together right now? Liang Yan asked Bai Xiaoxiao beside him. Bai Xiaoxiao nodded lightly. All together. They're currently living together in apartment Wen 43, building 7, Milin apartment complex. Let me check the map. Very close to us, in that direction. Bai Xiaoxiao looked at the map and pointed to an apartment complex in the distance. When they saw that apartment complex, both Ningqiu Shui and Liang Yan's expressions changed. Because the apartment complex Bai Xiaoxiao pointed to was exactly the one where they had just seen the eerie black figure. It was just that the apartment complex faced the intersection, and the eerie head-raising figure had already disappeared. Ningqiu Shui hurriedly walked to the window, leaned against it, and looked outside once more. But this time, he couldn't find that eerie figure anymore. It was as if it had left that place, or it had entered the apartment complex. What's wrong? Bai Xiaoxiao walked over to Ningqiu Shui's side, looking in the direction he was staring. The latter shook his head. I'll explain later. We must be extremely careful when we get there. There might be a problem there. Although the Crimson Door's prompt had clearly stated that the ghost would not kill them until the 4 mission targets died. But the scope of this not killing was quite broad. Not harming someone is called not killing. Breaking someone's limbs is also called not killing. Within this Crimson Door, if you are severely injured, your chances of survival are extremely slim. After that night's conversation, the relationship between Ning and Bai had grown much closer. Hearing Ningqiu Shui's instructions, Bai Xiaoxiao playfully rolled her eyes at him. I know. The 4 of them walked through the heavy rain toward the Milin apartment complex. The remaining 15 people temporarily stayed here, awaiting further guidance. The various small groups occupied separate rooms, with a few occasionally wandering the lobby, smoking to relieve their emotions. Ningqiu Shui's room was somewhat stifling. Both he and Liang Yan remained silent, until the unobtrusive man spoke first. That. You all saw it just now, right? Both of them heard Feng Wanming's voice trembling slightly. He seemed to be afraid of something. When they looked up at him, in the dimly lit room, it appeared as if an extra shadow had fallen across his face. Saw what? Ningqiu Shui deliberately asked. Feng Wanming gritted his teeth and said, It was that eerie humanoid figure standing at the entrance of the Milin apartment complex. Hearing this, both Ningqiu Shui and Liang Yan were somewhat surprised. They had initially thought this man was just an ordinary person, but unexpectedly, despite his unremarkable appearance, he was very adept at observing his surroundings. We saw it. At this point, neither of them bothered to hide it. Receiving the confirmation he wanted, This man seemed to let out a sigh of relief. At least, he wasn't the one being targeted. Within the Crimson Door, if you see what others don't, or hear what others don't, that is definitely not a good sign. It means you are very likely to have caught that thing's attention. I saw it once on the way here earlier. Sweat beaded on Feng Wanming's forehead, nearly invisible in the darkness. At that time, it was still far off on the northern road. I thought it was a street performer or a statue. But when it rained, it came to the gate of the Milin complex. And the passers-by around seemed not to see it. You tell me, could it be? Faced with Feng Wanming's somewhat anxious question, neither of them answered directly. But the silence was also an answer. Feng Wanming had gotten the answer he wanted. He paced back and forth in the room, looking very uneasy, trying to keep his voice calm. Didn't Mu Yunying say we have 1 day to prepare? That ghost can't act during this day. So why is this happening? Could it be? Has our mission already started? As if infected by his anxiety, Ning Chushui tilted his head slightly, looking toward Liang Yan, who was squatting in the corner of the room. The latter said, "The 7th Crimson Door will definitely give us 1 day to prepare. During this day, the ghost can act, but its actions cannot directly affect our mission. I've been through 3 7th Crimson Doors, and I've also seen many posts from predecessors on the forum. No exception. So you can rest assured about this." Hearing this, Feng Yuanming calmed down considerably, no longer as panicked as before. But Ning Chushui still felt a trace of unease in her heart. Was the eerie black shadow outside the Milin apartment complex the ghost behind the Crimson Door? Why did it lift its head? What was it looking at? After we get there, let's talk to them first. On the way, Mu Yunying said to the other 3. The 4 of them lived on the 10th floor. Since it wasn't too high, they were considering whether to take the stairs. How about we take the elevator? The mission hasn't started yet, so it shouldn't be dangerous. A woman named Fang Ni in the group suggested. Mu Yunying, the leader, glanced at her. If you think it's not dangerous, go ahead and take the elevator. Fang Ni's expression stiffened slightly. You're not going? Mu Yunying wasn't mocking her. She simply replied, I want to, but I'm a coward. I don't dare. I'll take the stairs. Before she could finish her sentence, she fell silent. The 4 had entered the lobby of Building 7, and their eyes fixed on the yellow warning sign above the stairwell. Under construction, temporarily available. The stairs were being repaired. Mu Yunying was slightly startled. Then she walked to the stairwell entrance and looked up. Something had collapsed there, leaving a gap nearly a whole floor wide. It probably wouldn't be fixed anytime soon. Damn it, who made the stairs like this? The traces don't look man-made. Maybe it's a shoddy construction job that collapsed on its own. After staring at the stairs for a long time, Mu Yunying finally sighed. I was planning to take the stairs, but now I can't. Forget it, let's take the elevator up. The 4 arrived at the elevator doors and saw that both the left and right elevators were stopped on the 1st floor. Mu Yunying pressed the call button. Both elevator doors opened. However, the scene inside made all 4 of them instinctively step back a few paces. In the right corner of the elevator stood a bizarre figure. This person was dressed very thickly, covered from head to toe, about 1.9 meters tall, standing motionless in the corner of the elevator, only tilting their head back, chin nearly parallel to their chest. Thus, no one could see their face, only sensing from their body a dense, bone-piercing chill. Besides tilting their head back, both arms were raised above their head, fingers curled into fists, as if something was trying to fight with them. In short, this posture was truly eerie, making it impossible to guess what they were doing. Hello. All 4 felt something was wrong. Seeing this person, their hearts began to pound. Chen Gong, the only man in the group, cautiously asked the person in the elevator, but they didn't respond, only stood stiffly in the corner, maintaining that posture. At this moment, even a fool could guess that the person in the elevator was Nomanis. It is very likely that this is the demon behind the Crimson Door. However, Mu Yunying showed no confusion. She gripped the ghost artifact tightly in her hand, then stepped toward the elevator beside her. Let's go. Her voice trembled but was resolute. The other 3 watched Mu Yunying in the elevator, then glanced at the eerie figure in the adjacent elevator. a chill running down their spines. Don't worry. Even if it could harm us, it would have acted long ago. Do you think it would just stand there in the elevator, posing for us to see? As if reading their thoughts, Mu Yunying spoke. She had set an example, leaving the other three with no choice but to grit their teeth and step in. If they backed out now, they might be ostracized later, and it could endanger their teammates. The elevator slowly ascended to the 10th floor. When the doors opened, the four stepped out. The hallway was dimly lit, the pale green light from the overhead bulbs flickering, creating an unsettling atmosphere. The green glow from the sign beside the emergency exit was slightly harsh on the eyes. Fortunately, the elevator beside them remained on the first floor, not following them up. Seeing the motionless red number 1 by the elevator, all four breathed a sigh of relief. Bai Xiaoxiao recalled Ningqiu Shui's instructions before she left, and her heart stirred. It seemed Ningqiu Shui had sensed something earlier. They arrived at apartment 1043 and knocked gently. Knock, knock, knock. The door opened quickly. A pale-faced man poked his head out, eyeing the four warily. Who are you? Mu Yunying stated her identity. The man's expression shifted to relief. Then he shone a flashlight on the four, confirming they had shadows before letting them in. Well prepared. Where did you learn that? Mu Yunying said with a smile. The man closed the door and replied casually, Forum 01. From what the seniors there said, those filthy things don't have shadows. Mu Yunying shook her head and said earnestly, You're very cautious, which is good, but I must remind you of one thing. Not all ghosts lack shadows. Most ghosts have shadows. You can't rely on that to distinguish humans from ghosts. She didn't hesitate to say the word, but after hearing her, the faces of those in the room turned even more grim. Especially a woman named Yu Wen, who was huddled in the corner, hugging her knees and trembling. Her pupils seemed slightly unfocused from fear. All right, no more idle talk. Let's get straight to the point. Mu Yunying sat down on the sofa in the room and looked at the four, asking, You've been haunted by a ghost recently, haven't you? The four didn't deny it, but Guan Guan, a young and pretty girl, corrected seriously. To be precise, we've encountered a supernatural phenomenon. Mu Yunying frowned slightly at her interruption. Is there a difference? Guan Guan swallowed, as if wanting to say something but couldn't find the words, choosing silence instead. Her strange behavior caught Bai Xiaoxiao's attention. She silently marked her in her mind. All right, I'll continue. We don't have much time, so please don't interrupt me unless necessary. Fine. Mu Yunying continued. I will confirm the situation of the four of you, then move you to separate locations tonight. Geikai, sitting on the sofa smoking, frowned upon hearing this. Wait, you just said, move to separate locations. Mu Yunying looked at him. Is there a problem? In the hazy smoke, his eyes held a hint of suspicion, almost like an interrogation. Why? Mu Yunying calmly met his gaze and replied, So that the four unlucky ones among you can survive the next 5 days. Mu Yunying spoke these words in a tone that was almost somber, causing the four protected targets in the room to tense up. For us to survive 5 days, what do you mean? Wang Zhen, the young man who had opened the door for everyone, asked in a trembling voice. His glasses had slipped down the bridge of his nose from sweat, but he seemed not to notice, staring intently at Mu Yunying. Mu Yunying's voice was cold, completely different from how she was in the group chat. Literally. If our investigation is correct, you've recently been harassed by a ghost, am I right? A forced smile appeared on Wang Zhen's face. No, it's not that serious, maybe just a few supernatural phenomena. Harassed? Isn't that a bit exaggerated? Mu Yunying looked at him sharply. Exaggerated? Is that so? If it were just a few supernatural phenomena, then what about her? She pointed at Yu Wen, who was trembling in the corner. A grown woman, scared to this extent by just a few supernatural phenomena? Your lie seems a bit clumsy, doesn't it? Wang Zhen wanted to say something, but Mu Yunying didn't give him a chance, continuing, I must remind you of one thing. We are risking our lives to help you. If it weren't for the organization ordering us to do so, we wouldn't care whether you live or die. Pausing for a moment, Mu Yunying stared at the four silent people, then added a sentence that struck them like a thunderbolt. That filthy thing you've encountered recently, is it a person wearing very thick clothes, quite tall, always lifting its head up with a strange posture. The eyes of all four immediately focused on Mu Yunying. In their eyes were fear, confusion, and a kind of shock. You've seen it? Wang Zhen held onto his slipping glasses, his heart pounding wildly, sweat dripping from his face to the floor. We have, right at. Feng Ni started to answer, but Bai Xiaoxiao beside her grabbed her wrist. Feng Ni froze, then immediately realized it might not be appropriate to say this at the moment. But even though she didn't want to speak, the other four couldn't help but ask, "Where is it?" Feng Ni realized she had slipped up and immediately shut her mouth. Bai Xiaoxiao stepped in to cover for her. "It's very close to you. So to survive, you must cooperate sincerely with us. Otherwise, even we will find it difficult to protect you." Gei Kai was smoking. He stubbed out the cigarette in the ashtray and shifted his gaze toward Mu Yunying. "You just said we can only survive for 5 days. What's that about?" Mu Yunying didn't blink as she lied. "Because that ghost only has 5 days to hunt you all. After those 5 days, it won't be able to do anything to you anymore. Don't ask me why. This is the rule. The specific reason is quite complicated, and I don't have the time or energy to explain it to you. All you need to know is that after surviving those 5 days, everyone will be safe." Hearing this, Gei Kai had no more doubts. In truth, they didn't have many options left. Otherwise, they wouldn't have so easily believed and gotten excited upon hearing that they were a team specializing in handling supernatural incidents. In other words, they were all fully aware of their current predicament. "All right, tell us what we need to do," Mu Yunying said. "This time, we have a total of 19 members, divided into 4 groups. Each group will protect one of you. During these 5 days of the protection mission, the 4 of you must not meet each other. You can only communicate via mobile phone, and you must stay far apart. That way, even if an unexpected incident occurs, that malicious ghost can only harm one of you in a short period of time. During these 5 days, we will do our utmost to protect you, but you also need to fully trust and cooperate with us. After all, that ghost is terrifying. Any small mistake could lead to catastrophic consequences." She spoke these words almost verbatim, delivering an overwhelming sense of pressure. "Wait, Miss Mu, we didn't know you before, and you don't have any identification to prove who you are. Suddenly telling us we have to completely trust and cooperate with you. Forgive me for being blunt, but that's probably very difficult." Although Wang Zhen was drenched in sweat, he still seemed to want to negotiate and communicate with everyone. However, Mu Yunying only glanced at him and said, "You know your own situation better than we do. If you refuse to cooperate, we won't force you. Stay here and see how long you can survive." Wang Zhen's face stiffened, turning extremely ugly. "Do you have to be so harsh?" Mu Yunying crossed her legs. "I don't want to say harsh words, but some people just don't know when to back down. Forgive me for being blunt. Do you have any other choice? Weren't you just wondering where that strange person was? Fine, I'll tell you. It's right downstairs from you." The moment she finished speaking, Yue Wen, who had been cowering in the corner of the room, suddenly stood up, rushed toward Mu Yunying, grabbed her arm, and tremblingly begged for help. "Cooperate. I'll definitely cooperate. I'll cooperate with everything. Please save me. I don't want to die, and I definitely don't want to be killed by that thing. Please." When she lifted her face, everyone was startled. Yue Wen's face was deathly pale, like a corpse with deep dark circles under her eyes. Heavy. It was clear she hadn't slept well in recent days. Especially her eyes. They were filled with terrifying bloodshot veins, utterly consumed by fear. Seeing Yue Wen like this, Mu Yunying's heart rejoiced. What kind of person is easiest to control? Naturally, those whose emotions are dominated by fear. This is why internet marketers create anxiety for customers before selling their products. Just like those selling facial cleansers often don't introduce their product first, but instead tell the customer how dirty their face is. The reasoning here is similar. Yue Wen was different from the other 3. She had been completely corroded by fear. In this state, she would basically answer anything they asked. This was crucial for everyone to understand the cause and effect behind this crimson door. As long as they could grasp the karma behind this crimson door, their chances of finding an exit would increase significantly. Thinking this, Mu Yunying felt she had seized the key point, and the corner of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. It seemed that although the seventh crimson door was very dangerous, it wasn't as terrifying as the predecessors had described. As long as they captured the key information, finding the exit would be relatively easy. But this place was no longer safe. When they went upstairs, the terrifying figure of the man in the elevator had put immense pressure on them. Although the mission hadn't started yet and it couldn't do anything to them, Mu Yunying still felt a bit uneasy. She decided to move these 4 people first, then find a location to exploit Yue Wen. Don't be afraid, Miss Yue Wen. This is precisely the purpose of our trip. So, have the 3 of you thought it over? If you decide to follow us, you must do your utmost to cooperate with us. We will also try our best to help you survive. If you feel our requests are too much, you can also choose to stay. We won't force you. The other 3 exchanged glances, their expressions shifting continuously. Their gazes also inadvertently swept over Yue Wen. Could you give us some time to discuss? Ge Kai asked with a deep look in his eyes. He lit another cigarette. We need a moment alone. It won't take long, 5 minutes at most. Mu Yunying was silent for a moment, then nodded. All right, make it quick. After speaking, she exchanged a glance with the other 3 and left the room. Outside the door, Feng rolled her eyes. These people really don't know what's good for them. They're clearly about to die, and they still want to negotiate terms. She muttered a few words, but the other 3 didn't respond, so Feng felt bored and stopped talking. Bai Xiaoxiao stared at the ground, the image of the eerie man in the elevator flashing rapidly through her mind. It was strange. The mission clearly hadn't started yet, so why did it appear here? Was it simply to scare these people? But doing so seemed meaningless, and it inadvertently increased. This heightened everyone's vigilance. Bai Xiaoxiao couldn't understand it, and precisely because of that, she felt deeply uneasy. This was the 7th door. The ghost would certainly not do meaningless things. There must be something she had missed. While Bai Xiaoxiao was deep in thought, the door behind them opened. All right, we've finished our discussion. Ge Kai spoke first. Everyone has agreed to cooperate with you. Now, let's get out of here first. Mu Yunying nodded slightly. Everyone walked toward the elevator and pressed the down button. The next moment, Mu Yunying's pupils suddenly constricted. She saw the elevator on the right, which had been stationary on the 1st floor, had started moving. 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. The elevator slowly ascended. As the red numbers continued to jump, Mu Yunying's eyelid began to twitch. Of course, Bai Xiaoxiao and the other 2 also noticed this. They stared at the rising elevator on the right, their hearts gripped by a giant hand. Damn it, it can't be this unlucky. Feng saw the number had already reached 10, and her scalp tingled. Bai Xiaoxiao looked at the elevator on the left. While waiting for the 4 people in the discussion room, she had inadvertently glanced at the number display beside this elevator several times. This elevator had been running between the Midas 1st and 1st floors, as if there was a technical malfunction. But she knew this was no technical malfunction. Ting! The 4 people had mentally prepared themselves to face a ghost, but when the elevator doors opened, it was empty inside. The strange man who had been standing in the corner earlier had vanished. Mu Yunying and the others breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, Wang Zhen had already stepped into the elevator first, saying to the 4 people from Mu Yunying's group who were still standing outside, "What are you standing there like idiots for? Don't you want to leave? Stop thinking. The stairs are broken. We can only take the elevator." Mu Yunying was silent for a moment, then stepped into the elevator. Since the staircase had collapsed, if they truly wanted to go down via the stairs, they would need to prepare ropes or curtains, wrap them around the stair railing, and slowly slide down. Doing that seemed no less dangerous than taking the elevator, and it would take a lot of time. Although she knew the hidden rules behind the 7th crimson door, she couldn't help but feel anxious in her heart. That ghost, was it still in the elevator? If it couldn't do anything to them, why had it entered the Milin apartment complex so early? Mu Yunying was filled with worry. She always felt that Ghost was about to do something very disadvantageous to them, but she couldn't figure out what the other party intended to do. This feeling was terrible. As the elevator doors slowly closed, the elevator began to descend smoothly. However, when the elevator reached the third floor, the lights above everyone's heads suddenly began to flicker. The sound of electric sparks crackled incessantly in the cramped space of the elevator. "Damn it! What's going on?" As the lights flickered, everyone immediately tensed up. Is the elevator malfunctioning? How can we be this unlucky? Could it be? Could it be? Wang Zhen's trembling voice didn't finish the sentence, but everyone in the elevator knew what he wanted to say. When the overhead light flickered faster and faster, the elevator began to shake violently. Everyone felt a fierce tremor beneath their feet, as if something below the elevator was ramming into them. "Hang on tight!" Mu Yunying shouted, grabbing the handrail inside the elevator first. The others quickly seized the railings to steady themselves and avoid falling. But Yue Wen, tucked away in the corner, seemed to sense something within this shaking. She slowly lifted her head, scanning the crowd in the elevator, and noticed there was one extra person. And that person was standing right beside her. In that instant, Yue Wen felt as if the blood in her veins had frozen solid. She dared not lift her head nor turn her face to look. Memories buried deep in the recesses of her heart now surged back like a relentless tide. At some point, the elevator had stopped shaking. When Yue Wen came to her senses, her eyes were filled with an unspeakable terror. She realized, within the cramped elevator, at some unknown moment, only two people remained. One was herself, and the other was standing before her, lifting its head as high as it possibly could. Its entire body exuded a bone-piercing chill, like a corpse that had long since died. Seeing this figure, Yue Wen was terrified and wanted to flee, but she could not move anywhere. Even the slightest motion was a luxury. Just as she was at a loss, the strange man before her suddenly made a sound. That sound did not come from vocal cords or a throat, but rather, like the grinding of bone joints, rubbing together without the lubrication of flesh and blood, a harsh, grating creak. Creak! As the bizarre noise rang out without pause, Yue Wen watched in horror as the man before her, who had been straining to lift his head, began to slowly lower it. "No, no!" With every inch the man lowered his head, Yue Wen seemed to recall something horrific from her past. She shook her head with all her might, letting out choked pleas from her lips. "Stop, please!" Yue Wen collapsed, tears and snot streaming down her face. But the man before her did not stop because of her cries. He slowly lowered his head, until finally he bowed it completely, staring straight into Yue Wen's eyes. Yue Wen saw the face she had buried deep in her memories. It was exactly as she remembered, pale, cold, utterly bloodless. Ah! At last, her emotions shattered under the weight of extreme terror. After a piercing scream, Yue Wen fainted. "Is she still not awake? Maybe we should take her to the hospital. Let me try." Bai Xiaoxiao reached out and pressed firmly on Yue Wen's philtrum. The unconscious Yue Wen finally slowly opened her eyes. "Yue Wen, you're awake? Are you all right? The group asked with concern, but as soon as Yue Wen regained consciousness, she let out a strange laugh. "It's here. There's no escape. None of us can escape. We're all going to die. I'll die first, then you, then him. Heh. Her voice was as cold as if it came from an ice cellar. Guan Guan, who had been about to step forward, froze in place. She tried to comfort her with a few words, but couldn't help shuddering and stepping back. Yue Wen kept repeating that phrase, her mind completely deranged. At this moment, no matter what anyone asked her, she wouldn't answer, only muttering those bizarre words. Seeing this scene, Mu Yunying clenched her fists, her expression as unpleasant as if she had just eaten something filthy. Finally, she understood what that ghost wanted to do. It couldn't harm them. In fact, it didn't harm them either. It only targeted NPCs, then scared them. As mentioned before, people whose emotions are dominated by fear are very easy to control. But this statement often has a hidden premise, that the person must be an ordinary individual, not mentally broken. Yue Wen was currently in a state of mental collapse. Initially, she would have been a very important source of clues. Not only would she reveal many things under the drive of fear, but what she said would be highly reliable. But now, she had become a useless person, almost unable to provide any useful information to everyone. This was what that ghost truly wanted to do. It really didn't cause any physical harm to them. But with just such a small action, it had successfully shattered their advantageous situation. At this moment, Mu Yunying was both afraid and regretful. Regretful that, if she hadn't been in such a hurry to leave and had instead asked this woman clearly about everything, even just getting a bit of information, she wouldn't be in such an awkward predicament now. Afraid because the evil ghost behind the Crimson Door was using tactics to prevent them from finding an escape route. This was truly what terrified Mu Yunying. A being that had completely overpowered them in strength. Once it gained intelligence, how passive and dangerous would they become? Damn it! I was too careless! Staring at Yue Wen, who sat on the ground muttering to herself, Mu Yunying's expression was complicated, wishing she could slap herself. What do we do now? The others, though not threatened by the ghost and possessing relatively strong mental endurance without breaking down, still felt fear and confusion when they saw Yue Wen suddenly become like this. After this is over, if there's a chance, take her to the hospital for a checkup. These 5 days are very dangerous. I originally thought today it would restrain itself a bit, but I didn't expect. It seems we have to speed up our actions. Mu Yunying, a woman who had entered the 7th door through her own strength, quickly adjusted her state, no longer feeling dejected. They swiftly returned to the old, dilapidated building that was about to be demolished. The remaining 15 people had already been waiting here for a while. You're finally back. How's the progress? The captain of Mu Yunying's group greeted her as soon as she returned. There were a few unexpected hiccups, but overall things went smoothly. But this thing seems harder to deal with than we thought. We need to speed up the plan. Mu Yunying summarized the situation that had just occurred to everyone, then continued. The mission usually designates an area for us. We can't leave it. Out of the mission area, even if we go outside, how will we get back? What we need to do now is quickly disperse these 4 people to the 4 corners of the mission area. Pausing for a moment, Mu Yunying glanced at the clock on her phone, her expression grave. We only have 3 hours of safety left. Everyone, act according to the plan. Good luck. The first 3 hours were used to disperse the 4 people to the nooks and crannies of the city. Time was running short, so no one wasted words. They acted immediately. Bai Xiaoxiao led Ji Kai to stand before Ningqiu Shui. This is Ji Kai, and these are my teammates, Ningqiu Shui, Liang Yan, Feng Wanming. After Bai Xiaoxiao finished the introductions, only Feng Wanming stepped forward enthusiastically to shake Ji Kai's hand. He didn't refuse. Give me a moment. We'll discuss things briefly and set out right away. Ji Kai nodded lightly. I'll go outside for a smoke. With that, he left. After he was gone, Ningqiu Shui finally asked in a low voice, Baijie, what exactly happened? Ningqiu Shui had sensed something was off from Mu Yunying's earlier description, but she had been too brief, completely lacking in detail. So Bai Xiaoxiao described the scene again, this time in greater detail. After hearing Bai Xiaoxiao's account, it's not that the ghost was smart. It was the Crimson Door that deliberately arranged it that way. Everyone's expressions turned strange after hearing this. The Crimson Door's intention? Liang Yan nodded. That's right. Is it to balance the difficulty? From Xiao Xiao's description, that girl named Yue Wen was quite timid. After being scared by the ghost several times before, her spirit was nearly broken. In that state, she was very easy to control. Just separate the 4 of them, add a little brainwashing, and Yue Wen would definitely spill everything. Once she revealed some crucial information, the difficulty of this Crimson Door would likely drop sharply. The Crimson Door naturally wouldn't let that happen easily, so it ordered the ghost to destroy Yue Wen. Pausing, Liang Yan added, Besides, Yue Wen is definitely different from the other 3. She must know additional details that directly affect the difficulty of this Crimson Door. That's why the Crimson Door had the ghost destroy her early. Bai Xiaoxiao looked thoughtful. Uncle Yan, if this is the Crimson Door's will, what if we forced Yue Wen to talk right there in the room? Liang Yan shook his head, his expression stern. I don't know. Perhaps some irresistible force would appear at that moment, preventing you from hearing what Yue Wen said. Or Yue Wen would meet with some accident, suddenly faint, and be scared into a mental breakdown by that terrifying ghost in her dreams. The power of the Crimson Door is beyond our understanding. It has countless ways to achieve its goals. After he finished, seeing everyone silent, he offered comfort. Don't be discouraged. Trying to clear the seventh Crimson Door by exploiting a flaw is impossible. Every Crimson Door has an exit. As long as we pay attention to the smallest details, we can definitely survive. After a brief exchange, they found Jikai nearby and hailed a taxi heading south of the city. As the cars vanished into the curtain of rain, the bizarre man reappeared at the entrance of the Milin apartment complex. He still strained to lift his head, staring at the torrential downpour. His arms were raised, as if trying to grasp something within the rain. Though it was late, many people were still coming and going from the complex. Yet, without exception, none of them spared a second glance at the eerie man. It was as if they regarded him as nothing but air. Inside the car, Geikai sat by the window, a cigarette perpetually pinched between his fingers, though he didn't light it due to being in the vehicle. You separated us to make it easier to extract information, didn't you? Ning Chu Shui studied Geikai's expression through the car window, noting that he remained remarkably calm, without the expected panic. You're so guarded against us. Is it because you've done something wrong in the past? Geikai sneered at this. Something against my conscience? That's true, but who hasn't done something against their conscience in life? Ning Chu Shui said, so what did you do that was so against your conscience that even when your life is threatened by a malevolent spirit, you still have to be wary of others? Jikai said nothing, lighting a cigarette inside the car. Then he rolled up the window. In an instant, the car was filled with swirling smoke. These days, even the police have to resort to role-playing when investigating cases. That elevator, you deliberately tampered with it before going up, didn't you? I originally thought that after the last report was filed, this would all be over, but I didn't expect you people to still not give up, even pulling some tricks. If it weren't for you showing up today, I might have actually believed it. Geikai stared at everyone with sharp eyes. But I recall that in our city, even the police aren't allowed to harm suspects without clear evidence. And now, Yuwen has been driven to mental instability by your aggressive investigative methods. I want to ask, how are you going to report this to your superiors? Hearing Geikai's words, everyone fell silent for a moment. Then Ning Chu Shui sighed. The most troublesome thing has happened. I just don't know how many self-righteous fools are left in the group. If those two are like him, I'm afraid this door will be extremely dangerous. Liang Yan, sitting beside Geikai, glanced at him and said calmly, You think we're the police of this city? Geikai exhaled a sharp puff of smoke. It's obvious. It's not that I think so. You really are. Comrade officers, no need to pretend anymore. I already told you everything I could at the police station last time. If you want to squeeze anything else out of me, I'll just have to make something up. Seeing that no one responded, he continued. Let me guess what your next plan is. You first separated the four of us, isolating us so we couldn't communicate with each other. This is also a familiar tactic the police use when dismantling criminal groups. Next, you'll start your plan, continuing to apply psychological pressure on us. After all, the opening act took so much effort. If you don't keep up the act now, it would be a waste of your previous efforts. I believe that soon you'll receive a call or a notification from someone saying that a person has been killed by an evil spirit. Of course, no one will actually die. This is just one of your many lies, meant to constantly apply psychological pressure on others. In your plan, eventually, someone will nearly break down from fear, and that person will be your primary interrogation target. You'll extract some useful information from him, and he'll confess everything under the control of his fear. Am I right, officers? Geikai's voice grew calmer and more confident as he spoke. He was increasingly certain that all of this was just a play staged by these people. After he said these words, the others in the car fell into dead silence. It seems I've hit the nail on the head. No one is refuting me. Geikai flashed a confident smile. Seeing everyone's reaction, he felt he was 80 to 90% correct. But unfortunately, you won't be able to extract any useful information from us. Officers, I've already told you, we are innocent and have confessed everything. No matter how much you investigate, it's useless. After all, that's all there is. A piece of land without gold won't suddenly produce gold just because you dig deeper. Before Geikai could finish, Ning Chu Shui saw Bai Xiaoxiao quietly clench her fist in the rearview mirror. It was clear that Bai Xiaoxiao really wanted to punch this guy. Ning Chu Shui lowered the car window beside him a bit and said to Geikai, "Seeing you talk to yourself for so long is a bit awkward. Give me a cigarette. I'll have a chat with you." Geikai was stunned, then stared into Ning Chu Shui's calm eyes, a mocking smile curling at the corner of his mouth as he pulled out a cigarette, lit it, and handed it over. "All right, officer, you want to talk? Then let's have a proper conversation." Ning Chu Shui took a drag of the cigarette, then immediately tossed it out the window, frowning as he said, "Do you usually smoke this kind?" Geikai was taken aback. Before he could speak, he heard Ning Shui say, "Maybe we can't extract any useful information from your mouth for now. Your earlier guesses about our identities, well, they were basically all wrong. You got one thing right, but not entirely. We really do want to investigate what you did before. But that's not the reason we separated the four of you. From the very beginning, we've been completely honest. You can choose to believe these words or not, but sooner or later, you will. Above is a brief summary. I won't argue with you. After all, I can't wake someone who's pretending to sleep. But next, I'll reassess the situation based on the details I know. Do you want to hear it for now?" As Ning Chu Shui spoke, Geikai's face gradually darkened. Everything Ning Chu Shui said to him seemed nothing more than stubbornness and lies. "Fine, go ahead. Let's see what story you can fabricate." Ning Chu Shui said, "The four of you have recently been plagued by an evil spirit's harassment. You can see it, but the passers-by and residents of Milin apartment complex cannot. This indicates it's targeting you. So I deduce that the four of you gathered together to do something. Ah, right, you've also reported this to the police, but we're not the police. It's best you tell us again, since it concerns your life. There are two simple reasons why that ghost seeks you out while ignoring others. One, you went to a very old and dark place, doing something that offended it. Two, its death is connected to you." Ning Chu Shui calmly recounted these thoughts while observing Geikai's expression in the rear-view mirror. The other's expression remained unchanged, but a faint, barely noticeable glimmer flickered in his eyes. Personally, I lean toward the second hypothesis. After all, when someone suspected we were police, before leaving, he deliberately stayed alone with his three companions for a while, whispering softly, as if afraid they might say something after parting ways. Pausing briefly, Ning Chu Shui didn't give Geikai time to interject and continued. "Based on the second hypothesis, I deduce you all went on a trip together to a very remote place. Otherwise, even if it were a premeditated murder, as long as you weren't industry professionals, the police would quickly pick up on details and arrest you. Only in some remote areas, no cameras, no passers-by. After finishing the deed, no traces would be left. The person who died there could only be deemed an accident. Speaking of the trip, since a ghost has set its sights on you, and its death is connected to you, this suggests there were originally 5 people on the trip, but only 4 returned, and the 4 of you all had a good relationship with the 5th who died." When Ning Chu Shui reached this point, a vein bulged on Geikai's neck as he shouted, "You're lying!" Feng Wanming beside him was startled by the sudden outburst, but Ning Chu Shui, sitting in the front row, remained calm, staring at Geikai through the rearview mirror. "Are you in a hurry?" "Aye. Don't rush. I'm not finished yet." Ning Chu Shui continued, "In this case, I believe you have 3 accomplices and 1 murderer. The reason is very simple. The 4 of you had completely different reactions when encountering the same ghost. A girl named Yue Wen was frightened, even mentally shattered, by an elevator accident. This is enough to prove that she is the vengeful spirit's primary target for revenge, or in other words, her guilt and fear are far greater than yours. Aside from differences in individual mental endurance, I lean toward the possibility that she did more in the murder you all committed." Geikai fell silent. He could try to control his expression and keep his gaze unchanged, but he couldn't control his hormones, couldn't stop the sweat on his forehead. Seeing his demeanor, Ning Shui knew that at least half of what he had said was true. You don't need to be so tense. These things have no evidence, can't be verified. Besides, we're not the police. Even if we were, as long as you don't talk, we couldn't do anything to you. Of course, we also have things we're hiding from you, and we have no intention of telling you the truth. You just need to know that your deaths would have a certain negative impact on us. That's the real reason we want to come and protect you. As for more specific details, in principle, we can't disclose them. Of course, if you think it through later and feel we're trustworthy, it's best to tell us the origin of this matter. It truly concerns your life. Having said this, Ning Shui said no more. He wouldn't make the relationship between the team and the protection target too rigid. That wouldn't be good for anyone. After all, they were bound by the Crimson Door. No matter how nauseating this protection target was, or how much he wanted to die, they still had to do their utmost to protect him. They couldn't afford to be too sentimental about it. The car continued driving along the rainy road. The driver wore headphones, listening to upbeat music, gradually steering toward the outskirts of the city. He didn't really care why they were going there, but since they had paid, he was willing to take them. After all, with his usual income, it would take him over half a month to earn this amount. By the way, the currency commonly used inside and outside the Crimson Door. Cash and savings from the outside could be directly brought into the Crimson Door and automatically converted into the currency of the world within the Crimson Door. Everyone in the car was wealthy. Before getting in the car, Bai Xiao had specifically told the driver that they were actors from some theater troupe, preparing to film a movie, and might rehearse lines along the way. The driver naturally understood. Sometimes even Ning Shui was surprised by Bai Xiao's caution. She often used very small actions to prevent potential dangers. From the city center to the outskirts took a long time, and the rain still hadn't stopped. A few minutes after dawn, a message appeared in the group chat on the phone. A message from Ning Shui, from Feng's group. The message was very brief, only 6 words. It is looking for us. Who is Feng's group protecting? Ning Shui turned around and asked Bai Xiao. She was slightly stunned, as if she felt Ning Shui shouldn't have forgotten this matter, but she still answered instinctively. Feng's group is protecting Yo Wen. Hearing this, Ning Shui stared intently at his phone. Yo Wen, so it's her. He muttered, not too loudly, but loud enough for everyone in the car to hear. Gei Kai beside him remained silent, occasionally glancing at his phone screen, wanting to see what the message was. It was an innate human curiosity. Although he could probably guess what the message was based on the brief exchange between Ning Shui and Bai Xiao, he still wanted to see it. However, whether intentionally or not, Ning Shui always kept his phone at an angle where he couldn't see it. So, has the plan started yet? Jay Kai sneered. Are you guys going to pretend something happened to Yue Wen next? No one in the car answered him. A small, nameless flame ignited in Gei Kai's heart. He felt humiliated by being ignored. He should have been the most important person here, but now, everyone seemed to treat him like air. Nothing to say, so I guessed right. He continued to provoke. At this moment, Liang Yan, sitting in the back row, calmly spoke up. Unless you take the initiative to talk to us, we won't ask any more about what happened to you before. And we will only protect you for 5 days. After that, you can go wherever you want. We don't care. If you think we're police officers and want to take a statement or something else from you, that's fine. We cannot talk about it. So even if it's an act, for the next 5 days, cooperate with us. Act as if you're thinking about your own safety. It's that simple. Can you do that? Gei Kai was silent for a moment after hearing Liang Yan's words. It seemed like not a bad proposal. At least if he cooperated with them, he wouldn't have to get entangled in that matter for the next 5 days. He didn't want to remember it, let alone talk about it. Fine. You are the people's police. I will certainly cooperate to the best of my ability within reason. Having said that, Jay Kai lost interest in taunting everyone. He turned his head to look out the window, where the rain was pouring down. But from this angle, he unintentionally or deliberately used the light reflected on the glass to see the faces of Ning Shui and Bai Xiao. Both had expressions of indescribable seriousness. It didn't look like acting, it was more like they were genuinely worried about something. Under the torrential rain, Geikai suddenly felt a chill. A strange thought flashed through his mind. The life-taking evil spirit, could it be real? If it were real. Thinking this, Geikai quickly shook his head violently, dispelling these terrifying thoughts. Impossible. It absolutely couldn't be. If there really were ghosts in this world, how could he have never seen one in over 30 years? It was just a trick by the police. They were tailing him and using some special method he didn't know about to create a ghostly scene for them. All of it was just to break down their psychological defenses. He would never fall for it. However, despite Geikai's firm resolve, there was still a hint of unease in his heart. He worried that the other two teammates might not be able to withstand the pressure. Yue Wen had already suffered a mental breakdown and couldn't provide them with useful information. Even if she did, it couldn't be used as evidence. After all, she was now a mental patient. As long as Wang Zhen and Guan Guan held steady, then in 5 days, these police officers would automatically leave. Thinking of their bewildered expressions at that time, Geikai couldn't help but curl his lips. A good life will begin after 5 days, he muttered to himself, then slowly closed his eyes to rest. Call me when we arrive, he said to everyone. North City. A dilapidated truck was driving wildly through the pouring rain. It was like a headless fly, scurrying aimlessly across the wide road. The 5 people in the car all had stern and anxious expressions. The original driver had been thrown out of the car by them. The reason they decided to change drivers was that the driver hadn't seen the strange person who suddenly appeared on the road and nearly hit them. They didn't know how it appeared. It didn't know how it ended up in the middle of the road, still maintaining its previous bizarre posture, standing in the rain with its head raised high, almost as if it would snap its neck. Under the curtain of rain and the enveloping darkness, its silhouette looked extremely terrifying. Although this thing didn't move at all, no one dared to get close, because just getting a little closer to this person would bring an overwhelming sense of unease. Intuition told them that once their car touched the silhouette of this person, something terrible would happen. Damn it! Why is this happening? Huang Qin, a newcomer in Feng Ni's team, asked in a trembling voice. She and her boyfriend Hu Shen were both newcomers lured here by greed and ignorance. Their crimson door had only reached the 3rd leaf. At this moment, facing such a strange scene, a strong sense of oppression immediately filled their entire bodies. I remember it had to open its ability eye to lock on to all of our positions, right? Why can it find us so accurately now? Hu Shen asked with difficulty. Rain splattered against the car window, soaking his hair and clothes, but he didn't care about any of that. His eyes still fixed on the strange humanoid figure in the middle of the road. They had turned the car around many times, but no matter where they went, that person would eventually suddenly appear. It was as if a tracking device was attached to them. Feng Ni turned the car around once more, gritting her teeth and cursing. You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Damn it, is this ghost sick or what? Yue Wen's already been scared out of his mind by it. Can't give us any useful info. And now instead of using the time to hunt down the other 3 from the other team, it's running over here doing God knows what. Fuck! She really couldn't understand it. Yue Wen's spirit had completely collapsed, and this state was usually irreversible. So now, she was practically useless. But the other 3 targets were different. They were all people with perfectly sound minds. As long as the other team used the right methods, they could totally break through their psychological defenses and extract crucial information from them. This ghost didn't hurry off to find the others, but instead targeted them first. It was baffling. As the car's speed increased, Feng Ni's mood grew as irritable and chaotic as the heavy rain outside the window. Staring at the flat road ahead, Feng Ni gritted her teeth and couldn't help but floor the gas pedal, the entire vehicle hurtling forward at breakneck speed. If 50 steps couldn't shake this ghost, then I'll run 80 steps. We're here. Geikai, who had been sound asleep in the car, was abruptly woken up. He got out and followed the group to a luxury hotel. Liang Yan didn't hesitate to book a family room, This type had 2 bedrooms and 3 beds, plus a sofa, enough for the 5 of them to rest. This was a special situation. They really didn't dare to split up. One careless move and something unexpected could happen. After arranging the room for Gay Kai, Liang Yan told Feng Yuanming to go check it out first, and they'd switch shifts later. Feng Yuanming naturally didn't argue and obediently went into Gay Kai's room. In the living room, Ningqiu Shuai picked up a cigarette the hotel had prepared for them, sniffed it, then lit it. "Uncle Yan, want a smoke?" Liang Yan shook his head. "Quit." Ningqiu Shuai said nothing more, walked to the window, finished the cigarette, and stubbed the butt into the ashtray before sitting down on the sofa. All 3 of them were a bit quiet. Not long after, Ji Kai came out of the room, saying it was too stuffy inside, and he wanted to wait in the living room. No one forced him, nor did they avoid him. "Are we just going to wait here now? Doing nothing?" Feng Yuanming asked. Bai Xiaoxiao kicked off her shoes, propped her long legs up on the sofa armrest, fiddled with her phone, and said in a lazy, helpless tone, "What else can we do? Just wait." Feng Yuanming looked displeased. "Can't we do anything at all to help Fang Ni and the others?" "I remember the Crimson Door's prompt clearly stated that the evil spirit must kill a protected target to awaken its abilities, including that eye capable of seeing the location of its hateful targets. But why can it find Fang Ni so easily now?" Faced with this question, everyone fell silent. Gay Kai stood alone in the distance, arms crossed, with an expression that said, "I want to see what you can do too," not joining the conversation. After a brief silence, Liang Yan's eyes suddenly lit up. Opened his mouth and said, "Old Feng, your guess isn't wrong. Right now, the evil spirit's eye ability hasn't awakened yet. It can't lock onto a target of hatred from a distance. Therefore, the fact that it can continuously track Fang Ni and the others is very likely related to Yu Wen." Everyone was startled upon hearing this. "Related to Yu Wen?" Bai Xiaoxiao's voice suddenly shifted from weary to serious. "Uncle Yan, do you mean that ghost has marked Yu Wen?" Liang Yan said, "Not certain. This guess could be wrong, but the biggest problem now is some information has started to show strange paradoxes. That ghost hasn't awakened its eye, but can easily lock on to Fang Ni and the others. It hasn't awakened its leg, but can easily chase Fang Ni's car. If it had these abilities, then unsealing the eye and leg would seem to make no difference. But the Crimson Door would never do such redundant things, so that ghost's abilities must have been severely sealed. There must be another reason why Fang Ni is continuously pursued by the ghost raising its head." Prompted by Liang Yan's reminder, Ning Chushui suddenly thought of something and said to Bai Xiaoxiao, "Sister Bai, you mentioned earlier that you all had a little incident in the elevator?" Bai Xiaoxiao nodded. At that time, the lights kept flickering. The elevator was shaking too. Not long after, Yu Wen passed out. Ning Chushui pressed further. "When did the elevator return to normal?" Bai Xiaoxiao thought for a moment. "It seems it went back to normal after Yu Wen passed out." Hearing this, Ning Chushui murmured, "That's right." Everyone's hearts tightened upon hearing this. "Chushui, what do you mean by 'that's right'?" Ning Chushui's expression turned grave. "This evil spirit, besides the abilities mentioned in the Crimson Door, very likely has another unexpected capability. Perhaps it's something like mind control, illusions, but this kind of illusion seems a bit too strong for ordinary people, so the Crimson Door might have restricted and weakened it. For example, the ghost needs to combine the sensation of body shaking with rapidly flickering visual light to execute the illusion." Hearing his words, everyone's expressions turned somewhat strange. At that moment, Gay Kai, standing by the window, sneered, "Ridiculous. According to you, those people are currently sitting in a car. How could there be shaking and flickering light?" Facing Gay Kai's mockery, Ning Chushui calmly replied, "You think yourself so clever, yet you can't figure out such a simple thing?" Gay Kai's face stiffened. A thought flashed through his mind, and he immediately understood Ning Chushui's meaning. Because the other team had quite a few people, an ordinary car couldn't fit them all, so they had rented an entire old truck, a vehicle with poor suspension, where even the engine's vibration could be clearly felt. As for the flickering light, that was even easier to explain. The car's headlights, combined with the pouring rain, would naturally create countless flickering beams. Even so, how can you be sure the people in the car won't stare at me? Staring at the headlights ahead? Geikai squinted. Ning Shui said, it would be very difficult for them not to stare ahead. Even moths are drawn to flame, not just moths, but humans are also phototropic creatures. On a pitch-black road, the area illuminated by the car's headlights is likely the only bright zone outside the vehicle. It's extremely hard for human attention not to focus there. After speaking, his tone turned somewhat grim. The current situation is very likely this. The people in Feng Ni's car are being controlled by a vengeful spirit through illusions. They think the car is speeding along at full throttle, but in reality, they're still in the same spot, not moving at all. Though Ning Shui's speculation seemed somewhat abnormal, upon further thought, it appeared to hold a shred of logic. The Crimson Door had never told them all the death hints, so it was naturally possible they would conceal some of the ghost artifact's abilities. Otherwise, if all the capabilities of the ghost behind this door were revealed, it would automatically fall into a disadvantageous position, and the difficulty of the Crimson Door would also be greatly reduced. No, I have to call them right now. Feng Wanming was no fool. He quickly grasped the intricacies involved. He immediately picked up his phone, intending to call Feng Ni. However, although the phone rang continuously, no one on the other end picked up. Seeing the unanswered ringing on the phone, everyone's hearts gradually sank. It's over, Feng Wanming muttered. The hand holding the phone trembled violently. Geikai noticed this detail, and his heart suddenly jolted. Not good. This doesn't seem like an act. Not certain yet. Need to observe further. What do we do now? After making 3 consecutive calls with no answer, Feng Wanming suddenly felt a sense of despair. He looked toward Liang Yan and the other 3. To be precise, this was the first day of the mission. Could it be that everything had already happened so quickly? In previous instances, a few people would die, and they even hoped someone would die first, so they could use certain details to help them judge the killing pattern. But this Crimson Door was completely different from before. Every time the ghost killed a mission target, it awakened a terrifying ability. Feng Wanming couldn't imagine how they could survive 5 days when the ghost, carrying those 4 horrifying abilities and illusions, came to hunt them down. Countless terrifying images flashed through his mind, and Feng Wanming couldn't help but shudder. I hope they can hold on as long as possible. Liang Yan clasped his hands together, his expression extremely grave. Now the 4 small teams were completely separated. After a long time, everyone was far apart from each other, fundamentally unable to help one another. There were both pros and cons. If they chose this method to buy time, they had to accept the state of isolation. Ning Shui said to Feng Wanming, "Old Feng, post your speculations about the ghost's abilities. Get into the group so everyone can see. After Youwen dies, we need to be ready to move at any moment." Feng Wanming nodded and immediately complied. Geikai, listening nearby, felt as if he were lost in a fog. He asked Ning Shui, "We still have to move. What are you people planning? Isn't it safe here?" Ning Shui looked at him and only said, "We don't have the energy to explain in detail to you. Just know this, the 4 of you. Every time one of you dies, the ghost awakens a terrifying new ability." Geikai was startled by this. Every time it kills one of us, it awakens a new ability? Doesn't that mean? Ning Shui nodded slightly. The moment the first person dies, the situation for the remaining 3 will immediately become extremely dangerous. The corner of Geikai's mouth twitched. Subconsciously, he began to believe what Ning Shui said. Perhaps, by his rational mind, this was just baseless nonsense, completely illogical. But supernatural events were often just that, illogical. This very lack of logic shattered all efforts and pretenses, making the bizarre yet genuine behavior of Ning Shui and the others feel all too real. Geikai began to sense a hint of fear from the expressions and tones of everyone around him. The faint thought that had sprouted in his mind earlier flickered before his eyes again. What if the strange man they had seen earlier wasn't an undercover cop, and the people before them truly weren't police officers? Geikai shuddered inexplicably and hurriedly pushed these thoughts out of his head. "Don't panic, Geikai. Whatever you do, don't panic. They're doing all this just to force him to tell the truth. I have to hold my ground. Without evidence, no matter what tricks they play, it's useless. He took a deep breath, repeatedly repeating this in his mind, hypnotizing himself. Just get through these 5 days, and then he could do whatever he wanted. Feng drove the small car, speeding along the bumpy road. The bright headlights illuminated the path ahead, countless raindrops falling like needles, sparkling like shooting stars under the car's lights before vanishing. The horrifying ghost raising its head appeared once again on the road ahead. Feng and the others stared at it. They couldn't remember how many times this had happened. Why? Why was it useless, no matter where they fled? The car's speed has reached 100. Why can't we shake it off? Feng's breathing was extremely heavy, her expression slightly twisted from prolonged tension and torment. The expressions of the others in the car were no better. Yue Wen, who had already gone mad, immediately fell silent again at the sight of the ghost. She curled up among the people in the back, wetting the car seat, her body trembling like a broken truck engine. The person sitting next to her was very uncomfortable but could only endure it. After all, this person was their protection target. Seeing the car getting closer and closer to the dark figure, Feng gritted her teeth and slammed on the brakes again, then reversed. Just then, a man behind her swallowed his saliva and suddenly asked a question that sent chills down the spines of those in the back. Everyone, do you feel like every time we turn around and see it, we're getting a little closer to it? Everyone thought back carefully, and it did seem to be true. As the number of times they encountered it increased, each time the car turned around, the distance to that strange black shadow grew shorter and shorter. In fact, this wasn't a hard-to-notice detail, but everyone had chosen to overlook it, because in their minds, the final distance to the black shadow depended on when Feng turned the car around. Turning around later naturally meant being closer to the black shadow. But after this man said this, Feng, who was driving, had a face that was already slightly twisted, and it instantly turned deathly pale. That's right, she clearly should have hated that black shadow. But why, every time she encountered this black shadow, did she become more irritable, more eager to hit it? Realizing her own change, Feng was startled. Could it be? Was her mind just now being controlled by that ghost? Just thinking about the ghost being able to control everyone's minds made Feng shudder. Sweat dripped down from her temples along her hair. She raised her hand to wipe it, only then realizing her hand was shaking even more. She glanced at her phone. Quickly contact the others with your phone, ask them if they have. Before Feng could finish her sentence, she heard her teammate beside her shout, "Sister Feng, watch out ahead!" Hearing this, Feng immediately refocused, but the next moment, they had already rushed past a figure. She slammed on the brakes as fast as she could, but it was too late. When the car came to a stop on the rainy night road, it was already over 10 meters away. The truck, drenched by the rain, came to a clumsy stop by the roadside. "Damn it. Sister Feng, don't joke around. We're not wearing seatbelts." Everyone in the car was jostled around by Feng's sudden braking. The woman in the second row struggled to pull herself out of the gap between the two front seats. Seeing Yue Wen on the right fall forward in a strange posture, with a large amount of fluid flowing from under her bottom, she frowned in disgust and cursed. "Old lady, did you piss your pants again?" "The sky is pissing, and you're pissing too, right? Disgusting." Even as she said this, she still reached out to help Yue Wen up, but the moment her hand touched Yue Wen's body, her expression suddenly changed and she screamed. "Ah! How could it be?" She seemed to have just discovered something unbelievable, her whole body curling up like a frightened rabbit. The others also noticed the woman's abnormal behavior and quickly looked over. "What's wrong, Sister Yun?" Liu Fengyun's chest heaved violently with each breath. She looked with terrified eyes, pointing at Yue Wen, who was lying limply forward, and stammered, She seems to have." Following the direction of her finger, everyone in the car saw Yue Wen lying forward in a strange, boneless posture. And between her legs, a thick, viscous fluid was flowing out. At first, Liu Fengyun thought Yue Wen had wet her pants again, but when she saw the posture, Yue Wen's expression changed. It was only then, under the dome light on the roof of the car, that she saw what was flowing out from between Yue Wen's legs. It was blood. What's more, it wasn't just blood flowing from between her legs. Her ears, nose, and mouth were also bleeding. Feng Ni screamed. The two people sitting next to Yuwen hurriedly supported her limp body. As they did, the others in the car also felt something was terribly wrong with Yuwen. Her entire body was as limp as mud, as if she had no bones. Damn it. The man on the right who was holding Yuwen felt goosebumps rise on his arm at a visible speed, his voice trembling with fear. She seems to have no bones. The moment these words were spoken, the faces of everyone in the car instantly turned pale. What? They immediately reached out to pinch Yuwen's body and face. However, as they did so, the features on Yuwen's face, which had still been intact, now began to melt like mud. Seeing this, everyone quickly withdrew their hands. That feeling, it truly made their scalps go numb. She really truly has no bones. It's not that she has no bones, it's that her bones have been shattered, completely shattered. Lu Fengyun tried to stay calm, gritting her teeth as she spoke. Her beautiful face was now drained of all color. After a preliminary examination, she could feel the bones inside Yuwen's body, but they were all just fragments of bone. Of course, that included her hard skull. How could this be? Seeing Yuwen's gruesome death, everyone felt their souls had fled their bodies. Would they die such a horrible death later on? That's not right. Everyone looked quickly. The scenery outside has changed. When a man shouted, they looked out the car window, and their expression suddenly changed. Before Feng Ni slammed on the brakes, they clearly remembered being on the northern edge of the city. But now, they had returned to the city center with its towering skyscrapers. Fuck! We've really run into a ghost this time. Running into a real ghost? We've hit a real ghost. For a moment, they couldn't distinguish between reality and illusion. Their minds had gone blank after that bizarre encounter. Beep beep. Just then, the phone that had been silent suddenly rang with a group message. Everyone opened it and saw it was a message from Feng Yuanming, recording his deductions about the ghost's abilities, as well as the agreement and approval of the others. After reading Feng Yuanming's deductions, the others felt varying degrees of regret. Such an amazing person, and they had shown him contempt when they split into teams earlier. Fortunately, he didn't hold a grudge, otherwise. But anyway, having such an amazing person on the team was a good thing for them. Seeing the messages Feng Yuanming had sent, Feng Ni recalled what had happened to her and quickly sent a few messages to the group. Brother Feng's deduction is correct. We just experienced a hallucination, and it seems our minds were affected to some extent, but not to the point of being completely controlled. Actually, this wasn't my deduction. Brother Feng, please don't be modest. I'm truly sorry about what happened before. I offended you greatly. You're a magnanimous person, so don't take it to heart. I'm telling the truth. Apologies, Brother Feng. How is Yuwen's situation now? She's dead. All the bones in her body were crushed, including her skull. Her whole body is as soft as a lump of clay. It was a gruesome death. I'll send everyone a picture. Image. In the group chat, everyone looked at the image Feng Ni sent and felt a chill run through them. In the photo, Yuwen had completely lost her human form. She had turned into a mud person. Seeing this image, Gei Kai, who was standing behind Ning Chushui and Peking, felt his heart pound violently. Damn it, he cursed under his breath, his eyes wide with disbelief. This is fake, right? It must be a prop they prepared in advance. Definitely. Kai kept hypnotizing himself, but no matter how much he told himself, his heart rate wouldn't slow down. He had vaguely realized that things seemed far more complicated than he had imagined. Oh my God, how terrifying. So that evil spirit has awakened an ability. Which ability will it awaken first? Probably legs, to run faster and find us more easily. I think it's hands. The skills of hands are too overpowered. The sooner it uses them, the more advantageous it is for it. No, that's not right. It could also be mouth. It's probably eyes. We're scattered too far apart. This ghost has no way to lock onto us from a distance. To find us, it has to rely on the power of eyes. Think about what just happened to Feng Ni and the others. If the ghost didn't need eyes to lock onto us, it wouldn't have used illusions to trap Feng Ni and the others before the mission even started. As expected of the great Feng Wanming, you've pinpointed the key point right away. I agree with Feng Wanming's analysis. This ghost will definitely awaken the eye's ability first, and this ability only has a 1-hour cooldown. We don't know who its next target will be. So from now on, except for Feng Ni's group, all teams must not stay in one place for too long. At most every hour, we must move. Also, great Feng Wanming, if you have any other opinions in the future, please share them with everyone in time. After the group chat ended, Feng Wanming looked up at Ningqiu Shui and the other three, stammering as he asked, "Great ones, what should we do next?" Liangyan stared at the heavy rain outside the window, tapping his fingertips lightly on the tea table, his voice carrying a hint of gravity. "We should prepare to move first. We don't know which one that evil spirit will target next." After speaking, he cast a casual glance at Jie Kai. From the perspective of the Crimson Door, if it were to design the order of targets, Jie Kai would undoubtedly be the last person to be singled out. Because, based on the details Bai Xiaoxiao had revealed and his behavior so far, this man named Jie Kai possessed an extremely stable psyche. He was a very difficult NPC to deal with, not someone from whom useful information could be easily pried. Of course, the Crimson Door was always a fair existence. It would not allow its guests to casually exploit loopholes, nor would it deliberately target its guests. Therefore, the next target of vengeance that the ghost sought would surely be based on its own grudge. I don't know what Yue Wen did before to end up dying so horribly. This ghost must be hunting its targets based on its own points of hatred. I wonder, who will be next? As he spoke, Liangyan suddenly and stealthily took out his phone, pressed a button, and then said to Jie Kai, who was standing somewhat dazed by the window, "Mr. Gi, can you give us some hints? Consider it a way to save your teammates." Startled by Liangyan's sudden call, Jie Kai snapped back to reality and evaded the question. What advice could I possibly give?" Liangyan asked directly, "Who will the ghost kill next?" Jie Kai trembled under Liangyan's piercing gaze, gritting his teeth and cursing. "Are you insane?" "How would I know who it will kill next?" Liangyan smiled faintly. "You do know, Mr. Ji. Do you really want to watch your friends die just like Yue Wen?" Hearing this, Jie Kai sneered and said, "Cut it out. This is just your trick. Yue Wen is perfectly fine. You guys just made a fake corpse model, doctored a photo, and that's enough to fool us? Isn't that too childish? Officer, I've told you people many times already. We've confessed everything. Harassing us like this, do you know you're disturbing the peace?" "Liangyan, so you're determined to watch them die with your own eyes?" Jie Kai squinted. "Officer, if you keep spouting such baseless nonsense." Before he could finish, Liangyan gently tapped a finger, sending the recording he had just made to the group chat. No other intention, mainly to sow discord within their ranks. 3 people, only one secret. Let's see who speaks first. Unaware of Liangyan's small move, Jie Kai continued to play along. At that moment, Bai Xiaoxiao lightly raised her phone and said with a smile to everyone, "I'm going to set an alarm. Everyone, set one too, okay?" Everyone nodded. "But what are we going to do tonight?" Feng Yuanming frowned. Liangyan said, "Wait. Feng Ni went north for a stretch. We'll head south. The farther the better. The ghost's first move will surely be to open its eyes, so its speed won't be very fast. At least not faster than a car. Until 3 in the morning tonight, we're basically safe. This is the most precious rest time we'll have tonight. Everyone, go to sleep. I'll stay up all night. You all rest first. After 3 a.m., everyone gets up, wash your faces to stay alert, and be ready to run at any moment. Tomorrow morning, we'll head to the city center and rent a car. We'll figure out the rest later." Everyone had no objections to Liangyan's arrangement. "I'll sleep in the living room," Ningqiu Shui said. "Sister Bai can have a room to herself. Feng Yuanming, you sleep with Jie Kai. Don't lock the door when you sleep." Feng Yuanming nodded. "All right." He followed Jie Kai straight into the master bedroom, lying down on the soft bed. Before long, his eyelids began to droop. The intense tension from earlier had left them somewhat exhausted. As for Bai Xiaoxiao, she remained lying on the sofa, her eyes slightly bright, with no intention of getting up. "Sister Bai, aren't you going to rest?" Ning Chu Shui asked. Bai Xiaoxiao blinked and said, "Hey, just call me Xiaoxiao. This isn't our first time working together. I'm a few years younger than you. Don't be so distant. We've already drunk together, and you're still calling me Sister Bai. Sister Bai. It's annoyingly awkward." Ning Chu Shui recalled something from that night and couldn't help but cough. "All right. Xiaoxiao." Seeing his expression, Bai Xiaoxiao couldn't help but curl the corner of her mouth. "I'll keep watch here too. Hey, I'll make room for you." With that, she gently lifted her feet, slipped on her shoes, and sat up, making space for Ning Chu Shui. He didn't stand on ceremony and sat down directly beside Liang Yan. The atmosphere immediately turned a bit strange. Bai Xiaoxiao stared at Ning Chu Shui, and Liang Yan also stared at Ning Chu Shui. "Come here," Bai Xiaoxiao said in a serious tone. Ning Chu Shui rubbed his nose, sighed, and thought he couldn't avoid it, so he silently walked over and down next to Bai Xiaoxiao. The three of them were silent for a while, until two snoring sounds came from Geikai's room. Bai Xiaoxiao tilted her head to look inside, confirming that both of them were asleep, then whispered to the other two, "I just checked the criminal news in this city from the past 2 months. Chu Shui's earlier guess is basically correct." Hearing this, both of them looked toward Bai Xiaoxiao. She quickly swiped her finger across her phone screen, found something, and placed the phone in front of the two of them. They looked at it. On the phone screen was a news report from a month ago. 5 youths ignore warnings, sneak into forbidden wilderness area, meet with accident, 1 missing. The news only had a simple photo, but Liang Yan and Ning Chu Shui still recognized one person in the photo whose face was partially exposed. It was Wang Zhen. 5 people went on an expedition, 1 went missing. The missing person is named Wang Chengshu, a man in his 30s, unemployed, usually staying home writing novels, living on 600 yuan a month. Hearing Bai Xiaoxiao's soft voice, both of them fell into thought. A person with only 600 yuan in monthly income, rarely leaving the house, why would he be killed by his friends for no apparent reason? Could it be that he had done something to wrong the other 4? As for other information, I really can't find anything more. Wang Chengshu isn't a public figure, and there are always various cases in the city. Compared to those incidents that truly impact people's lives, among the common folk, an unemployed person doesn't get much respect. Bai Xiao wasn't wrong. Although Geikai and the others treated those ghost guests as if they were from the police station investigating, in reality, the police only asked them to come to the station for a simple statement before letting them go, without delving deeper into the matter. "Xiao Xiao, weren't you playing a puzzle game earlier?" Ning Chu Shui asked casually. Bai Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes. That was for Geikai's benefit. He was standing behind me on the right at the time. From that angle, he could see my phone screen. I couldn't investigate in front of him. He's already suspicious of us. Ning Chu Shui smiled, then fixed his gaze on the news content, sinking into thought. 3 in the morning. The 2 people sleeping soundly in the room were jolted awake by the alarm clock. They opened their eyes, drowsy, but were immediately startled by the scene before them. A dark figure stood at the dark doorway, silently watching them. Feng Yuanming screamed, frantically reaching for the light switch, but before he could yell, "Help!" he saw Ning Chu Shui standing at the door, staring at him with a stunned expression. Brother Chu Shui?" Feng Yuanming asked cautiously. Ning Chu Shui looked at him seriously and said, "What did you just call me?" Realizing it was indeed Ning Chu Shui, Feng Yuanming breathed a sigh of relief. "Damn it. Brother Chu Shui, do you have any idea how terrifying it was seeing you standing at the door just now?" Ning Chu Shui chuckled upon hearing this. "Are you awake? If you're awake, get up quickly. Wash your face, we need to prepare to move." Feng Yuanming nodded. He said to Jeikai, "Let's go to the bathroom together to wash up. The bathroom has frosted glass partitions, so it won't compromise your privacy." Jeikai looked displeased. Having been woken from a sound sleep by the alarm, and then startled by Ning Chu Shui at the door, he was a bit irritated. "I must be out of my damn mind to go along with you idiots." He cursed, pushed past Ning Chu Shui and headed toward the bathroom. Feng Yuanming hurriedly followed, worried something might happen, But as soon as Geikai entered the bathroom, he slammed the door shut and locked it. Feng Yuanming frantically pounded on the door, shouting, "Geikai, open the door! I'm still out here! Geikai, can you hear me? Open up quickly, I can't hold it anymore!" Inside the restroom, Geikai completely ignored the noise outside the door, relieved himself comfortably, then shuddered. What a bunch of morons. Are cops these days so desperate for promotions that they resort to such extreme methods to solve cases? What's the complaint hotline number? Geikai pulled up his pants, took out his phone, and was about to call the complaint hotline. But soon, he noticed something strange. No matter how many times he pressed the power button on his phone, the screen wouldn't light up. Seeing this, Geikai couldn't help but frown. He shook the phone, but it still didn't work. Geikai clearly remembered charging his phone before going to sleep. So why couldn't it turn on now? Phone broken. Geikai's irritation grew by the second, a flicker of brutality flashing in his eyes. He stared fixedly at his phone screen, struggling to suppress the urge to hurl it away. "Even you want to defy me?" Geikai gritted his teeth, snarling at the phone. But then a strange smile crept across his face. "No matter, just wait a few more days, then you'll know the consequences of crossing me. New stock is coming soon, an old piece of junk like you should retire." Having said that, he was about to put the phone back in his pocket when he suddenly sensed something amiss. Hesitating for a moment, Geikai pulled the phone out again, glaring at the black screen. He frowned. His own face was reflected on the screen, yet he had a vague, nagging feeling something was off. A nameless unease surged within him. At that moment, Geikai suddenly felt as if someone was watching him from somewhere. Instinctively, he glanced at the door. No one was outside the frosted glass door. Through that glass, outsiders could only make out a rough silhouette of him. It's not them. Then who is it? A strange glint flickered in Geikai's eyes. The sensation of being spied on didn't vanish when he searched. Instead, it grew worse. Geikai could even feel the resentment and malice in the gaze peering at him. Just then, his eyes happened to sweep across the mirror in front of him. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, then back at the image on his phone screen, and his expression shifted abruptly. Finally, Geikai realized what was wrong. That resentful gaze was coming from his own reflection on the phone screen. Upon discovering this, Geikai nearly threw the phone away in terror, yet he still refused to believe in ghosts and spirits. Though a bit unnerved, years of ingrained convictions kept him steady. Damn it! Is this real or fake? Is it because I didn't sleep well, too stressed out? Sweat trickled down Geikai's temples. After a few ragged breaths, he gritted his teeth again and flipped the phone over, screen facing up. This time it made him scream in fright. Fuck! On the black screen, his own eyes weren't just filled with resentment. His mouth was beginning to curl into a grotesque smile. This time, Geikai couldn't hold back any longer. He threw the phone away, then panicked and dashed to the door, fumbling for the handle. He just wanted to get out immediately, but when he tried to open it, he realized he had locked the door earlier. Geikai hurriedly unlocked it. Click! After unlocking, he twisted the handle hard, only to discover in horror, the door still wouldn't open. How is this possible? How is this possible? Staring at the completely immobile door before him, Geikai's mind went blank. Did someone outside block the door to deliberately scare me? Even now, he was desperately trying to hypnotize himself, yet what was unfolding before his eyes left him no way to deceive himself any longer. The frosted glass outside the door revealed the silhouette of a person. If someone were outside, he would definitely have seen a shadow. But outside, there was no one. The terrifying gaze from the phone screen grew increasingly vivid, sending a chill down Geikai's spine, his heart threatening to leap out of his throat. He turned back and saw that after being thrown away, the phone had propped itself upright against the wall. The self inside the screen was stepping closer to the phone screen, step by step. Its face grew larger and larger, until finally, on the pitch-black phone screen, only a single enormous eye remained, glaring at him with venomous hatred. At the same time, the light above his head began to flicker incessantly. In an instant, Geikai recalled what Ningqiu Shuai and the others had said about the daytime malevolent spirit hallucinations. Could it be, it's really... Geikai's lips trembled uncontrollably, as if remembering something, his face turning deathly pale. A fierce will to survive kept him from resigning himself even in the grip of terror. He slammed his fists against the bathroom door. Bam! 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 After pounding to no avail, he struck the bathroom door again. Thud! The frosted glass door, once fragile, now felt unyieldingly solid, like a door forged from pure steel. Geikai clenched his fists and continued hammering against the door. Tendrils of blood had already filled his eyes. Geikai, in his panic, remained oblivious to the danger of his actions, continuing to pound on the door like a madman. He had no choice but to keep hitting it. The ceiling light flickered faster and faster, compounded by the horrifying eye on the phone screen and Ningqiu Shui's earlier words, pushing Geikai's fear to an unprecedented peak. The sharp mind he prided himself on had now gone completely blank. Within it, only one word remained. Run! He had to escape the bathroom. Otherwise, he would likely die here. But as Geikai frantically beat the door, he quickly realized that the temperature in the bathroom was dropping at a perceptible rate. The normal warmth had already given way to a distinct chill. Goosebumps rose all over his body. Hach! A strange sound seemed to emanate from behind him. It was like a sigh, or perhaps a breath. Every time the thing behind him exhaled, the temperature in the bathroom seemed to drop a little more. The bone-piercing chill snapped Geikai back to a sliver of clarity. Only then did he notice that the ceiling light had stopped flickering. Slowly looking down, Geikai saw, beside his own feet, there was another pair of feet. On those shoes, mud still clung. He could never forget those shoes, would never forget. Seeing them, any shred of hope in Geikai's heart vanished, leaving only boundless terror. No, his lips quivered. A pair of pale, twisted hands suddenly reached out from behind him, and just as they were about to land on his shoulders, a sharp blade pierced through the bathroom door. One step ahead in the bath! Crash! The crisp sound of shattering glass instantly snapped Geikai back to his senses. Immediately after, the bathroom door was yanked open, and a warm hand reached out, pulling him back. Don't worry. Run now, Ningqiu Shui shouted loudly. Then he dragged Geikai, rolling out of the bathroom. Bai Xiaoxiao beside him also hurriedly withdrew the dagger engraved with the character Shanji. Mountain branch. Since they were on the first floor, escaping was very convenient. No need to go through the door, just jump out the window. 4 a.m. The rain hadn't stopped yet. The five of them trudged miserably along the road, preparing to hail a taxi while heading north. According to the map information provided by the team, when Yue Wen encountered trouble, we were the group farthest from her. I really don't know what that bastard did to enrage everyone so much that it harbored such hatred for him. Along the way, Ningqiu Shui's tone carried a hint of sarcasm. The special daoji on us can only be used once. The dagger Xiao Xiao just used was wasted because of your stupidity. These props are very precious to us, so... Saying this, Ningqiu Shui suddenly stopped, blocking the still terrified Geikai, looking into his eyes where fear hadn't completely faded, and said seriously, Humans cannot fight against ghosts, and neither can we, so protecting you will come at a great cost. If the person we're supposed to protect is an extremely arrogant and foolish idiot who likes to court death, we can abandon this mission at any time. After all, besides you, there are 2 other mission targets. As long as we take good care of them, we'll complete the mission. Hearing Ningqiu Shui's almost threatening words, Geikai clenched his fists. But now, he no longer had the courage to challenge Ningqiu Shui. What had happened in the bathroom not long ago was still vivid before his eyes. Even if he wasn't as terrified as before, Geikai's mind had sobered up. He understood that what had just happened was definitely not something humans could do. All his previous speculations had turned into ridiculous lies. But you said that every time one of us dies, that ghost awakens a very terrifying ability, right? Ningqiu Shui nodded slightly. Yes, I said that. But we can't protect you at all costs because of this. Before doing something, everyone should consider whether it's worth doing, right? Hearing this, Geikai's face paled slightly. He bit his lip, and after a moment of struggle, he lowered his stance and said to Ningqiu Shui, If I cooperate with you fully, can you guarantee I'll survive? Ningqiu Shui shrugged. Can't. After saying this, he turned and left, leading the group to continue heading toward the city center in the north. Jikai looked at his back, his expression somewhat gloomy and trembling. But when he turned back to look at the rainy night, his body trembled with fear, and he quickly followed the others. "Don't be angry. I'll try my best to cooperate with you, and I hope you can. I can guarantee your safety to the best of my ability, and afterward, I'll pay you a large sum as a reward." Geikai's attitude shifted, becoming more tactful and pragmatic, a stark contrast to his earlier demeanor. Bai Xiaoxiao, walking in the middle of the group, suddenly tilted her gentle face to the side and said with a faint, ambiguous smile, "Do you think we're short on money?" Geikai was startled. "Aye." Bai Xiaoxiao continued, "You want to cooperate with us? Fine. Then tell us, how did Wang Chengshu die?" At the mention of this name, Geikai's expression instantly changed, as if invoking something highly taboo. His death was truly an accident. We've spoken with the police and filed a report. Even if the police might not believe us, and you don't either, what I'm saying is the truth. Chengshu's death might be connected to us, but we are absolutely not the murderers. When talking about Wang Chengshu's death, Geikai's voice carried a heavy, unspeakable weight. Moreover, his death was entirely a case of reaping what he sowed. As he spoke, everyone listened in silence, afraid to miss any detail. Your earlier speculations were basically correct. The four of us all knew Wang Chengshu and had a pretty good relationship with him. Not long ago, we went on a trip together. But this trip wasn't initiated by us. It was Wang Chengshu. Hearing this, Feng Wanming couldn't help but interject. Hey, don't talk nonsense. Let me tell you, your past affairs were all over the news. Wang Chengshu was a poor writer who scraped by on a few hundred yuan a month, barely able to feed himself. How could he have the money to take the initiative to invite you all on a trip? Did you invite him instead? At this mention, Geikai's face grew even worse. We invited him. This trip was mainly about eating and drinking. Didn't cost much, less than a few hundred yuan. At first, Wang Chengshu told us he just wanted to get out and relax, and conveniently take a few of our friends camping and cooking. But when we followed him to that uninhabited sealed-off area, mentioning their trip to the uninhabited wilderness, Geikai couldn't help but curse. That bastard. He was truly insane with greed for money. He wanted to do that again. Seeing him like this, Feng Wanming asked curiously, what did he want to do? Geikai tremblingly pulled a cigarette from his pocket. Even though it was raining and he couldn't light it, just holding the cigarette in his mouth made him feel a bit more at ease. He wanted to be a grave robber. Hearing this, everyone was startled. A grave robber? In this day and age, people still did grave robbing? As if sensing the doubt on everyone's faces, Geikai sneered. Do you know how many wealthy people in this prosperous city have died, refusing cremation, unwilling to give up the wealth they accumulated in life? And in the end, you choose to take them to the grave. A painting worth a fortune, capturing art and humanity, but after those old ghosts dragged it into that dark tomb, it became worthless. Even though the punishment for grave robbing within the city is severe, plenty of grave robbers still show up every year. In this city, those who dig up graves have even formed their own little community. Bai Xiaoxiao asked a question that left Geikai speechless. And you? Knowing so much, do you want to become a grave robber too? After a long silence, Geikai finally spoke. Actually, if it were me, I would have taken the risk too, just like Wang Chengshu. After all, he really had no other choice. No stable job, addicted to gambling, drowning in debt, unable to pay it off. All we knew at the time was that Wang Chengshu wasn't going to find inspiration for his work. He was clearly approaching his debt deadline and came to us to help him think of a way out. Everyone exchanged glances. Bai Xiaoxiao frowned and asked, How do you all know each other? Geikai replied, We were all college classmates, met in a club. Which college? The Southern City Workers Technical Institute. All 5 of you went to a vocational school. Yeah. Hearing this answer, everyone fell into thought. This information was relatively easy to verify. If he was lying, they would find out soon enough. This guy thought he was clever, so he wouldn't lie about something like this. Actually, the rest of us weren't exactly rich, but our families were stable, and we could barely scrape together the time. That day, Wang Chengshu dragged us to the edge of the uninhabited wasteland and told us he wanted to become a grave robber and wanted us to join him. As he spoke, Geikai's fingers twitched, whether from fear or excitement, it was unclear. He said, if there was money to be made, he wanted us to make it together. You know, it was like a phone scam. At that point, he was crazy for money, completely crazy, completely crazy. Geikai repeated himself, then grew a bit distracted. His voice became unstable. Everyone noticed his abnormality. Hey Geikai, are you okay? Feng Wanming asked cautiously. Geikai snapped back to reality at his voice, his eyes a little dazed. No, I'm fine. He took a few deep breaths, calmed down, and continued. All of us had stable jobs. It wasn't much money, but it was enough to live a normal life. Of course, we didn't want to take risks with him. But we made the mistake of not being firm enough. Wang Chengshu told us he had already gone to a certain place in the uninhabited wasteland before, where there was an ancient tomb. That place wasn't under the city's jurisdiction, so if we dug it up, no one would know. There was too much stuff inside. He couldn't move it all at once, and going back and forth too many times would attract attention. We had a car, so he called us all over. All of us came, then we split the treasures and money evenly. As he spoke, Geikai's voice had completely calmed down. Everyone has greed, you understand that. So we followed him to the wilderness and went down into the tomb. When he reached this point, Geikai's tone gradually turned somber. But no one expected that the grave robber's diary sold on the market was real. We encountered something inexplicable inside that tomb. Feng Wanming was very curious. He was originally someone deeply interested in grave robbing novels. At this moment, being able to hear a first-hand account from someone who had actually robbed a tomb was naturally far more thrilling than reading fiction. Geikai was silent for a long time, then slowly uttered two words. Blood corpse! When we saw that thing, all of us were terrified. Everyone scattered, running toward the tomb entrance. In the end, only Wang Chengshu was left behind inside. We don't want to talk about this matter because it's illegal and too bizarre. The police won't believe it. As soon as he finished, Feng Wanming let out a cold laugh. Won't believe it? I'm afraid you still have greed, still want to go back and retrieve the treasures inside? If the police find out, those treasures will probably be protected or confiscated. You won't get a single cent. As he finished, Geikai's face stiffened slightly, but he only snorted coldly. Say whatever you want. The rain poured down like a waterfall. The five of them walked along the street. Occasionally a car passed by in the early morning, but they didn't dare to hail one recklessly. The vehicles appearing at this hour were mostly large trucks and some cargo vans. These people didn't want to follow in the footsteps of Feng Ni and the others. After enduring until dawn, although the sky was still overcast, traffic on the road gradually increased. During this time, Ning Chu Shui and the others did not encounter that ghostly figure again. They took a taxi to the city center, found a guest house, washed up briefly, prepared themselves, and then went to rent a car. To avoid any mishaps, this time, while Geikai was showering, Feng Wanming also went with him. The two bathed together in an intimate manner. Uncle Yan, Chu Shui, how much do you think that man's words are worth believing? Bai Xiao was still trying to search for information on her phone, but it seemed that whatever could be found had already been found. He was lying from the very beginning. Liang Yan said with certainty. In this man's mouth, there isn't a single word of truth. Liang Yan's expression remained very calm. He opened his phone and showed the two of them the recording of the group conversation. Yesterday, I deliberately played a game of division, using Geikai's recording to put psychological pressure on the other two, and then all three told a story about grave robbing, but their details differed, with many inconsistencies. Is it possible that any of them told the truth? Bai Xiao asked, feeling a bit confused. Liang Yan spoke up. Before you took them away from the apartment in Milin, they were alone together for a while. Perhaps they've already finished discussing it, but there wasn't enough time to verify the specific details, which is why there are still some loopholes. If they really did go tomb raiding and experience the blood corpse incident inside the tomb, Geikai would naturally come to understand that there are things in this world that science cannot explain. he wouldn't be able to reject supernatural events like he did before. Looking at the whole situation, before he encountered a ghost, Geikai always believed we were the police. All the supernatural events they experienced before were orchestrated by us. This shows that deep down, he truly doesn't believe in ghosts or spirits in this world. From childhood to adulthood, he's never encountered anything supernatural. I don't know if there's a cemetery outside the wilderness area, but they definitely didn't go tomb raiding. Bai Xiaoxiao carefully considered Liang Yan's words. It was indeed true. But if they didn't go tomb raiding, then how did Wang Chengshu die? Was it simply a case of luring him out to kill him and dispose of the body? Liang Yan glanced toward the bathroom and continued. At this point, we can confirm that they committed murder in an organized and premeditated manner. There are two possibilities. First, revenge. Second, money. A man who lost his job, spends all day at home writing useless novels, and manages to offend 3 acquaintances at the same time. The likelihood of revenge is almost zero. If I had to choose one, I think they killed Wang Chengshu for money. Bai Xiaoxiao was stunned by this. For money? But Wang Chengshu doesn't look like someone with money? Liang Yan was silent for a moment, glanced at the pensive Ningqiu Shui, and then continued his train of thought. Not necessarily. Perhaps Wang Chengshu was actually very wealthy. It could be dirty money, a lottery win, or an inheritance. Right now, we have too little information. Everything is almost entirely based on speculation from details, and we can't be certain. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 glaring messages suddenly appeared in the phone chat group. Tangren, Wang Zhen is dead. Tangren, Bo Shu is also dead. Seeing these 2 messages, all 3 of them froze. Wang Zhen was one of their protection targets, and Bo Shu was the ghost guest responsible for guarding Wang Zhen. If Wang Zhen's death was a heavy bomb, then Bo Shu's death was a devastating shockwave after the bomb exploded. The rules of the Crimson Door clearly stated that the Raising Ghost would not attack them until the 4 protection targets were killed, right? Why was Bo Shu also dead? And the Raising Ghost had clearly chased them and tried to kill them at 3 a.m. this morning. Why did it suddenly switch targets? All 3 immediately thought of one detail. After they escaped from the hotel, it seemed they hadn't encountered the Raising Ghost again. At first, they thought it was because the Crimson Door restricted the Raising Ghost, preventing it from maintaining a high-intensity killing state continuously. Now, it seemed that wasn't the case. It was simply that the Raising Ghost had changed its target of hatred at that moment. But why did it suddenly change its target of hatred? Could Wang Zhen have done something to anger the raised head ghost during this time? Very quickly, the group chat immediately became lively. Damn it, Liang Yan, didn't you say this morning that the ghost was at your place? Is this a joke? The ghost really was at our place this morning. It almost killed Ji Kai. Luckily, Liang Yan used a ghost artifact to break the ghost's illusion space. Otherwise, Geikai would be dead. That's not right. If that's the case, why did the ghost run to our place to kill someone? Doesn't it hunt based on grudges? Are you sure Pishu is dead? He wasn't killed directly by the ghost. At the time, he was saving Wang Zhen and got hit by a passing car, his body parts scattered everywhere. Look at the image. Do you think he could still be alive? Where's the big shot? Feng Yuanming? Big shot, come out and analyze this quickly. He's taking a shower. Everyone analyzed for a while, but couldn't find the cause. Of course, what terrified them was that after Wang Zhen's death, the raised head ghost would awaken another ability. As for what that ability was, they still didn't know. After Geikai and the others finished showering, they immediately learned what had happened in the group. Both of their faces instantly turned pale. Big shots, what do you think? The next ability the raised head ghost will awaken is. Feng Yuanming had just finished showering when a cold wind blew through the window, and he immediately shivered. Faced with his question, everyone in the room fell silent. After a moment, Ningqiu Shui tossed clothes to him and Geikai. Hurry up and get dressed. Without any surprises, that ghost's next hunting target is you. We need to leave quickly. Hearing these words, Geikai's face instantly turned ashen. It will come again? Ning Chu Shui looked at the unceasing rain outside the window and said, 5 days. Until death, it won't stop. Geikai recalled what had happened in the hotel bathroom in the south earlier, and his legs trembled uncontrollably. Fear made him anxious, even a little angry. He couldn't help but shout at everyone, "Aren't you people professionals at this? Isn't there any way to stop it?" However, faced with his question, the 4 of them looked at him with cold eyes, especially the 3, including Ning Chu Shui. At this point, this man still hadn't told them the truth, still hiding things. If it weren't for the cost of his death being too high, everyone would have wanted to hand him over to the raised head ghost themselves. Ning Chu Shui replied coldly, "Geikai, we made it clear to you this morning. Humans are incapable of dealing with ghosts. We can only restrain it a little, and we have to pay a huge price. Don't shout at us, all of this is your fault, and you still haven't told us the truth. It's beyond saving. We also have no intention of squeezing anything out of you to take your secrets to the grave. Guan Guan." Geikai's face flushed red with fury as he heard this. "I've already told you, what more do you want to know? I admit we abandoned Wang Chengshu while fleeing from the blood zombies, but if it weren't for him, we'd never have entered that tomb in the first place, right? How can you blame us for this? Huh!" By the end, he was nearly shouting in everyone's faces, his eyes bloodshot, veins bulging on his neck. Seeing his frenzied state, Liang Yan adjusted his glasses slightly, as if he had anticipated this, and said indifferently, "Whether you're lying or not, you know it yourself. You don't need to try so hard to deceive us. I've told you before, we're not the police. The reason we want to uncover your crimes isn't to arrest you, but because it might help us find the weakness of the ghost raising its head. That's your only chance of survival. So either say nothing at all, or tell us every detail you know. Lying won't help you survive." After a pause, Liang Yan added calmly, "It just makes you look incredibly stupid." Chapter 187, The Head Raiser. Chapter 1, Azer Gambler. The mockery dripped like honey into Geikai's ears, yet instead of anger, he gradually calmed down, his sharp eyes scrutinizing the 4 people. They hadn't been together long, but aside from the supernatural events they'd experienced, many small details were enough to prove they weren't police. At this point, Geikai was still hiding the truth. The biggest reason was, he didn't want to bring disaster upon himself. A peaceful life was right before his eyes. If he spilled everything to save his own skin, and Ning Chu Shui later reported it to the police, he'd be finished. As someone involved, Geikai knew their plan wasn't flawless. If the police found Wang Chengshu's body and investigated thoroughly, they'd quickly indict all 4 of them. Their actions were too brutal. Even if they survived, they'd spend the rest of their lives in prison. Geikai couldn't accept that. He had no way back now. Thinking this, Geikai gritted his teeth and chose silence. Seeing this, the others just shook their heads slightly, said nothing more, quickly packed up their gear, put on raincoats, and prepared to move to the next location. Wang Zhen's group fled southwest. "Right now, the ghost is trying to find us. Let's head east. That way, we can minimize the chance of being intercepted." Liang Yan analyzed as he looked at the map. Between his brows was a barely concealed gloom. Everyone's expressions were no better. The pressure from this ghost raising its head was truly overwhelming. From the start of the mission until now, they'd been in a constant state of killing, or on the road to killing. There was no pattern to these deaths at all. They could only flee hopelessly. But Mu Yunying's group is also to the east. Feng Yuanming hesitated slightly. If we run east and something happens, won't they be in danger too? Liang Yan glanced at Feng Yuanming. "Is your phone just for decoration?" Hearing this, Feng Yuanming slapped his forehead and gave an awkward laugh. "I'm such an idiot." The group moved eastward while simultaneously notifying Mu Yunying's team to head north, then loop back around from the west. Along the way, everyone sat in the newly purchased car, a suffocating atmosphere enveloping them. The second ability of the raised head ghost is likely in its mouth. Ning Chu Shui, who was driving, suddenly spoke up. Everyone in the car was startled. "Mouth? Why do you say that?" Ning Chu Shui shook his head. "It's just a guess, not necessarily correct. Regardless, everyone should be careful. If I'm right, I'll explain later." With that, He glanced into the rearview mirror. Ji Kai sat alone in the back row, his face pale, lost in thought. Ji Kai, if you were given another chance, would you do it again? Liang Yan, sitting in the passenger seat, suddenly asked. Ji Kai snapped back to reality. He pondered for a long moment, then shook his head. No. Liang Yan smiled. No, you would. Ji Kai was stunned. The biggest trait of gamblers is that after losing, they regret it deeply, but they never learn their lesson. Next time, they still place their bets. They gamble until they lose everything, until they're left with nothing. But even then, they don't stop. They borrow money, and when they can't borrow anymore, they steal. Until they finally turn the tables. But in this world, no gambler ever truly turns things around. Hearing this, a chill ran down Geikai's spine. Enraged, he lunged toward Liang Yan, but Bai Xiaoxiao's sharp blade was already pressed against his neck. Don't be rash. This knife has killed before, and more than one person. Bai Xiaoxiao's gentle yet icy voice instantly sobered Geikai up. Feng Wanming quickly held Geikai back. What are you doing? Calm down, everyone. Calm down. He tried to pacify everyone while signaling Bai Xiaoxiao to put away the knife. The girl smiled beautifully, twirled the blade, and it vanished without a trace. Liang Yan, from start to finish, remained seated, calm and composed. Who are you talking about? Geikai's eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging. Liang Yan said indifferently, Your reaction just now confirmed my suspicion. It seems what you said earlier wasn't entirely fabricated. You're addicted to gambling, drowning in debt, unable to pay it off, so you harbored malicious intentions? Geikai sneered. I don't know what you're talking about. A glint flashed across Liang Yan's glasses. It seems it really is about money. In this world, there are many people who will do anything for money. They all have their own hardships, and I've never thought they deserved such a fate, except for gamblers. Geikai squinted, trying to suppress the anger within him. I've never gambled. I have a house my parents left me in the city center, a stable job, insurance, and a wife who loves me. Why would I need to gamble? Liang Yan said calmly, I believe what you're saying, but it's only true if you add the word once before every sentence. You once had a house, a stable job, and a wife who loved you. But now, you've gambled it all away. Geikai's face twisted as he gritted out, How can you be so sure I'm a gambler? Liang Yan was silent for a moment. That's right. At first I didn't think so either, but you told me yourself. From the moment you framed Wang Chengshu, I started to wonder, could you be the one with the gambling addiction? After that, every move you made proved it to me. You are indeed a gambler. Geikai sneered. Actions? What have I done? I've been following your arrangements all along. Liang Yan suddenly pulled out a cigarette and handed it to Geikai. Want one? We're not sure we can get you through tonight alive. If you like smoking, have one more, one less to worry about. Who knows, this might be your last. Geikai hesitated for a moment, then took the cigarette. Liang Yan smiled. You've known all along that we're not cops, haven't you? But you still refuse to tell us the truth. Why? Because when you worked together to kill Wang Chengshu, you must have left loose ends. Plenty of things not properly handled. What if we called the cops and they found the body? Then you'd be in deep trouble. By then, you might end up in an even worse situation than now. On the other hand, if you just survive these few days, we'll leave and no one will bother you anymore. Your actions, aren't you just gambling? Betting on whether we can protect you while we ourselves don't even know the truth. As Liang Yan spoke, his eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Beads of sweat had already formed on Geikai's forehead. Before, you gambled with money. Now, you want to gamble with your life? Liang Yan's words left Geikai speechless. Hidden beneath the sleeves of his raincoat, no one could see his trembling hands. That was fear, utter, bone-deep fear. It didn't come from the threats of the outside world, but from the deepest recesses of his own soul. His spirit and thoughts felt as if they had been laid bare. It was as though he stood naked before Liang Yan, with not a single secret left to hide. The filthy things he had done, the things he himself despised, now gnawed at his mind. You don't understand. You don't understand anything. Geikai's voice turned hoarse, frantic, completely different from his earlier calm demeanor. He muttered continuously as if hypnotized. No one said another word. For the rest of the day's journey, an eerie silence hung over them all. Every hour, they sent messages in the group chat, confirming whether anyone had encountered that terrifying head-raiser ghost. Other than that, the chat was deathly quiet. Thanks to Liang Yan's meticulous route planning, by late night, Ningqiu Shushui and the others had yet to cross paths with that ghost. After driving all day, Ningqiu Shui was exhausted and couldn't go on. Bai Xiaoxiao took over for him. "We still have enough gas, shouldn't need to refill until noon tomorrow." Bai Xiaoxiao spoke up. "Tonight, we'll drive until about 3 or 4 in the morning, then switch with Feng Yuanming." Everyone agreed with her arrangement. At present, the raising head ghost was targeting them. Although it hadn't yet used the power of its feet, its movement speed was by no means slow. In this situation, they couldn't afford to let their guard down for even a single second. Liang Yan set an alarm to go off every hour. Then, relying on his unique method, he altered the group's direction of travel. Ningqiu Shui noticed that Liang Yan's method of changing direction was quite distinctive. Ordinary people only had 8 directions to move in: east, west, south, north, and the 4 diagonal directions. But Liang Yan subdivided these 8 directions into 24. After that, he delineated 18 of those directions, using them to predict the area where the raising head ghost might appear and encircle them. The remaining 6 directions were used to randomly alter their route, prolonging the time they could stall the ghost. This method significantly reduced the probability of encountering the raising head ghost. Perhaps it was due to Liang Yan's meticulous calculations, or maybe it was just luck. But throughout that entire night, they never once crossed paths with that terrifying raising head ghost. Of course, because they hadn't encountered any danger, an indescribable unease rose in everyone's hearts. They didn't know if the ghost simply couldn't find Ningqiu Shui's group, or if it was searching for other people. To ensure safety, the other groups were also moving in directions away from Ningqiu Shui's group, constantly changing their positions. The next morning, everyone felt utterly exhausted. If this continued, they feared they wouldn't be able to hold out much longer. Earlier, the other 2 groups had gone to find Mu Yunying. Under Mu Yunying's arrangement, they regrouped, preparing to take over from Ningqiu Shui's group and continue the escape on the second day. During the handover, Liang Yan explained in detail the method of subdividing the 24 directions of movement. Mu Yunying, the group leader, listened and then nodded, leading her teammates to begin their operation. "Everyone, rest first. After you've rested enough, contact the Rishui group in the chat. They're currently looking for a rendezvous point for the 2 groups. If there's time, you can go see Guan Guan and see if you can pry any useful information out of her." Ningqiu Shui and the others nodded. Then, he immediately asked in the group chat, "Has anyone gone missing?" After checking, everyone replied that no one was missing. This was a very important piece of information. It indicated that after killing Wang Zhen, the raising head ghost had not yet awakened the power of its hands. Perhaps it was the feet, or maybe the mouth. "Be careful." Watching the retreating figures of Mu Yunying's group disappear, Feng Yuanming breathed a sigh of relief, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. But when he turned around, he noticed that both Liang Yan and Ningqiu Shui wore grim expressions. "Why aren't you too happy? We survived the first day. If they follow the plan today, our method can also avoid that ghost." The success of last night had instilled immense confidence in Feng Yuanming, but Liang Yan shook his head. If it were that simple, the death rate of the 7th Crimson Door wouldn't be so high. "We were safe last night purely by luck, having avoided that raising head ghost. My method relies on an element of luck, and it also requires the user to have precise judgment and foresight. Our luck cannot last forever. I only hope they can use the ghost artifact wisely and survive this calamity." Liang Yan rarely spoke so much. Everyone took out their phones, opened the map, found a nearby inn, and rented 4 rooms. After washing up cleanly, they lay down on the warm, large beds and quickly fell asleep. "The car is almost out of gas. We need to stop for about 5 minutes to refuel. During this time, everyone must be careful," Mu Yunying said as she drove. She glanced at Ji Kai, who was dozing off in the back seat, and spoke softly. "Ji Kai, if you're too tired, just sleep for a while. We'll protect you. You can't keep going on like this." Hearing this, Jikai lifted his head to look at her. After a moment, he regained his senses, nodded, leaned back in his seat, and closed his eyes to rest. Last night had truly exhausted him. On one hand, his sinful past tormented his mind. On the other, the fear of the life-taking ghost haunted him. Jikai's nerves had been in a constant state of tension, without a single moment of respite. Now, hearing Mu Yunying's soothing voice, he drifted hazily into sleep. In his dream, it was raining. Rain poured down like a torrent. Jikai clearly remembered wearing a raincoat, but the heavy rain still left him drenched. His eyelids were heavy, impossible to open. It was unbearably uncomfortable. Sour, spicy, salty, sweet, all seemed to cling tightly to his eyelids. His limbs were equally heavy. Just taking a single step made him feel like he would collapse face first. Jikai had no choice but to stand still in place. The feeling was terrible, especially since he knew a terrifying ghost was staring at him, just waiting to pounce. Thinking of that ghost, Jikai couldn't suppress his fear. In his daze, he smelled a familiar scent, a feeling, like being in the forest, in the wheat field, Suddenly, Jikai recalled something, and cold sweat broke out all over his body. This shock restored his strength. Opening his eyes, the scene before him sent a chill down his spine. How did I come back here? At the edge of the forest ahead stood a wooden sign, painted in red with the words, "Restricted area, no entry." These 7 words awakened all of Jikai's memories. Everything surfaced clearly in his mind. This rain, this forest, and this wooden sign. It all felt like returning to the starting point. He saw a path leading into the woods, covered in chaotic footprints. Trembling, Jikai followed those footprints deeper into the forest until he saw an abandoned wooden cabin. This wooden cabin was the former residence of forest rangers. After the city downsized, their work was also forced to cease. Jikai stood not far from the wooden cabin, not daring to approach. Just then, a bolt of lightning tore across the sky. Boom! Jikai trembled, watching a dark figure stagger down from the mountain. It was a woman. As she drew closer, Jikai realized it was the deceased Yu Wen. Her entire body exuded an abnormal, ashen gray, her face a terrifying, deathly pale, etched with an indescribable panic, as if she had just endured something utterly horrifying. Jikai watched Yu Wen run into the wooden cabin amidst the pouring rain, and then faint sounds of an argument drifted out from within. This scene was not unfamiliar to Jikai, because just a month ago, he had experienced it himself. He could even recall every single word of that argument. At this moment, Jikai shifted his gaze towards the distant mountain. He knew that he was not dead yet. If he went there now, he could save him. So then, should he go? Thinking about what he had done, Jikai was filled with immense regret. If he hadn't done those things, he could be lounging comfortably on his sofa at home right now, watching TV, drinking beer. Instead of being like this, hunted by evil spirits, living in hiding, constantly terrified of being killed. Now that he had returned here, could it be that heaven was giving him a chance to make amends? Thinking this, Geikai's heart suddenly began to race. He had had enough. He didn't want to continue living these days of horror anymore. At this moment, he wanted to go there, save Wang Chengshu, and then apologize to him. Thinking this, Jikai dashed towards the dense forest on the mountain. But he had only run a few steps when a familiar voice called out from behind him. "Hey, what are you doing?" That voice was like a thunderclap in a clear sky, making Jikai scream in fright. He spun his head around and saw that the person calling him was actually himself, an exact replica. The only difference was that on that face was a look of madness and indescribable greed. "Have you lost your mind?" The person said angrily. "Things have come to this point. You've arranged everything, prepared everything. You are the mastermind behind it all. Just one final step, and your plan will succeed. You will get everything you want." Hearing this, Gikai's steps faltered. "No, this isn't what I want." Gikai shook his head violently, his eyes filled with pain. "This isn't what I want. I don't want to die, and I certainly don't want to die a miserable death like Yu Wen and the others. I want to live." Before he could finish, the person coldly interrupted. "So what? What are you going to do now? Do you even have a way out anymore? Even if you save him now, even if he doesn't report you out of schoolmate loyalty, those loan sharks won't let you go. You have no money, no power, no home, no family. You don't even have... His kidneys and limbs were also nearly gone. If you don't reclaim everything, even if you survive, what will you have left? Do you want to live like a beggar, abandoned in some corner, dying in agony? Hearing these words, the pained gaze of Jikai gradually grew hazy. That's right. He hadn't just lost everything. He was drowning in debt. Debt so deep he could never repay it. At this moment, did he even have a way out? He didn't even have the right to start over. The house his parents left behind was gone. His wife had left, his money was gone, and he had to borrow from loan sharks to gamble. When he couldn't borrow anymore, he lost his hands, his feet, his kidneys. The only chance he had to turn things around was right in front of him. His hazy eyes slowly cleared, gradually filling with greed and ruthlessness. A sinister smile crept across Jikai's face. Wang Chengxiu had to die. Only 4 days left. Just survive these 4 days, and the vast sea and sky, wealth and fame will all be mine. You say I'm gambling with my life? Then let's gamble. I'll use this dog's life of mine to trade for the future. If there's never been a gambler in this world who turned the tables, then I, Jikai, will be the first. Thinking this, he stepped forward 1 pace at a time until he stood before his doppelganger, patting him on the shoulder. Thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have made it to today. The two faced each other, both with bright smiles curling on their lips. I'm going to the restroom for a bit. Everyone wait here. Don't wander off. At the gas station, Mu Yunying felt a sharp pain in her stomach. She couldn't keep driving and had to stop to take care of an urgent need. Luckily, the gas station had a restroom. You two keep an eye on him. I'll go into the convenience store to buy some food. We might not have time to stop and eat today. Tang Ren said. Thinking about the possibility of driving all day, Tang Ren felt they needed to stock up on food and water. While Captain Mu Yunying was in the restroom, she decided to do some shopping. With 2 people watching him, there shouldn't be any problems. The other 2 nodded in agreement. In truth, if they encountered that ghost, they still had 2 ghost artifacts to deal with it, plus 1 person who could drive. About a minute later, Tang Ren's voice called out from outside the car. Hey, you two, come out and help me carry this stuff. There's too much. Hurry up. I can't hold it anymore. It's all about to fall. The 2 stuck their heads out and saw the call coming from near the convenience store. It was quite crowded there, but not too far away. After a moment of hesitation, one of them finally got out of the car, though they remained vigilant and didn't both leave. I'll go check it out. You stay here. If anything happens, shout. Zhang Hua said to Qing Wanwan. The girl nodded. Watching Zhang Hua's retreating figure disappear, Ji Kai, who had been fast asleep, suddenly woke up. Dazed, he looked at the empty seat beside him, and his phone suddenly rang. Without a second thought, Ji Kai answered the call, completely oblivious. Arriving beside Qing Wanwan, the girl seemed completely oblivious to the ringing phone. Hello? He let out a long yawn, his voice thick with sleep. But the familiar voice on the other end of the line jolted him wide awake. Be careful of the woman beside you. She's been swapped out. Upon hearing this, Geikai's entire body stiffened. The woman sitting next to him had been swapped. Swapped by whom? Could it be? The mere thought of that horrifying possibility nearly shattered Geikai's mental defenses. He turned his head stiffly to look at Qing Wanwan. As luck would have it, her gaze was fixed out the car window, not on him. Perhaps she didn't realize it, but this very action placed an invisible pressure on Geikai. Because that ghost was the same, it always kept its head raised, preventing anyone from seeing its face clearly. In that moment, in Geikai's eyes, Qing Wanwan was no different from a vengeful spirit come to claim him. He instinctively shifted away from her. As for Qing Wanwan, she felt a vague sense of unease. She kept feeling that Tang Ren's sudden call for them to come to the snack stand was somehow off. Moreover, she couldn't see Tang Ren anywhere, and it seemed she hadn't heard the phone ring at all. So she focused all her attention on the snack stand, momentarily neglecting Geikai's movements beside her. Perhaps this momentary lapse in attention led to disaster. By the time she reacted, Geikai had already opened the car door and fled in panic. Come back! Qing Wanwan shouted frantically at Geikai, her voice slightly distorted. Seeing this only terrified Geikai further, and he charged toward the crowded street. He ran while glancing back over his shoulder. Seeing Qingwanwan chasing after him like a madwoman, an indescribable fear surged within him. It was an animal instinct. Whether predator or prey, once they see something chasing them, they become extremely tense. It was a self-preservation mechanism. Ignoring Qingwanwan's shouts, Geikai, like a man possessed, ran for his life toward the bustling street. After all, he was a man with much better stamina than a girl. After a brief chase, Qingwanwan was left far behind. Geikai kept running forward until no one was chasing him anymore. Then he stopped. He panted heavily, inwardly rejoicing at his escape while pulling out his phone. He pressed the power button. The screen didn't light up. Seeing this, Geikai's heart seemed to stop. The events in the restroom earlier were still vivid in his mind. He instinctively stared at the pitch-black phone screen. An expanse of black. Nothing at all. Not even his own reflection. Cold sweat began to bead on Geikai's forehead. What was happening? He couldn't believe it and rubbed his eyes, but when he opened them, the phone screen was still as dark as ever. Geikai suddenly remembered something, and his face turned deathly pale. He remembered now. This blackness, he had seen it before in the hotel restroom at dawn. That morning, it was those eerie eyes. At this moment, those venomous eyes had completely filled his phone screen. The owner of those eyes was staring at him from behind the screen. Thinking of this, Geikai felt as if thousands of needles were piercing his skin. He let out a miserable scream, hurled the phone far away, and then frantically ran back in the direction he came from. Now, after 2 intense shocks, Geikai finally regained his composure. He realized how foolish he had been to trust the voice on the phone earlier, because that voice was Liang Yan's. Although they had some conflicts before, Liang Yan and the others had actually protected him quite well. Moreover, Liang Yan could deduce almost their entire plan based on just a few minor details. That terrifying observational ability had left a deep impression on Geikai. It was that very thoughtfulness and caution that made Geikai feel safe, leading him to subconsciously trust the voice he heard in his daze. But now, Geikai realized a bitter truth. He had no way to contact Liang Yan at all. Recalling Ning Chushui's earlier speculation that the ghost raising its head had awakened the ability of the mouth, Geikai instantly understood. He had been deceived. In that moment, a bone-piercing chill ran through him. Geikai, like a man possessed, ran toward the gas station, but when he arrived, he froze in place. The car that should have been parked in its usual spot was gone. "Mu Yun-ying!" Geikai called out reflexively, but received no response. The rain still poured down like a waterfall, surrounded by puddles and blurry mist. Geikai wiped the rain from his face, searching the gas station in panic, but found no trace of Mu Yun-ying or the others. He grabbed a gas station attendant, gesturing wildly to describe the car's appearance, but the attendant just looked at him and smiled. A stiff smile, an eerie smile. Seeing the attendant smile, Geikai shuddered in fear. He felt something was wrong and quickly backed away, wanting to turn and flee. But as he turned around, his entire body froze in place. The scene before him sent a chill down Geikai's spine. Everyone around him was wearing that same eerie smile, their venomous eyes fixed on him. Damn it! Geikai's lips trembled as he bolted out of the gas station. Even though he was wearing a raincoat, the torrential rain still soaked him through. He just kept running, and the surroundings grew more desolate, with weeds beginning to appear underfoot. In a single moment of distraction, Geikai realized he was standing in a familiar, desolate forest. The mountain path also appeared along with the familiar wooden sign. Only the words on the sign had changed. Death. Seeing that blood-red writing, Geikai felt a bone-piercing chill, fear surging in his heart. "No! No!" He let out a miserable scream. Geikai turned to flee, but a shadow suddenly appeared before him. It raised its head as high as it could, its 2 hands reaching toward the sky, as if trying to grasp something. Upon seeing that black shadow, Geikai felt as if all his strength had been drained, his legs buckling beneath him. "Don't kill me. Don't kill me, Cheng Shu. I was just momentarily confused. I didn't mean to. Please forgive me. I don't want to give up that thing. I don't want to." He knelt prostrate on the ground, kowtowing frantically, tears and mucus streaming down his face. Between his legs, a stream of yellow liquid flowed out, but the black shadow before him seemed to ignore his pleas for forgiveness. Creak, creak. The horrifying sound of friction echoed again, and the ghost lowered its head once more before Ji Kai, until that ghastly white face appeared before his eyes. Ah! Ji Kai let out a blood-curdling scream. Then, he collapsed by the roadside like a pile of mud. Passers-by looked at Ji Kai in shock, wondering what was wrong with this man. Qing Wan and the others finally ran over, looking at Ji Kai lying on the ground, his face deathly pale. Fresh blood oozed from every pore on Ji Kai's body, staining the ground red. When Ningqiu Shui and the other three woke up, it was already dark. The first thing they did was turn on their phones and check the messages in the group chat. But unfortunately, they quickly learned the news that Ge Kai had been killed by the ghost that morning. Everyone fell silent. Alongside unease and fear, they also felt an indescribable fury. It felt like they had been guarding a treasure with utmost care and trepidation for a long time, only for it to be smashed the moment it was handed to someone else. But at this moment, they were all in the same boat, sharing honor and disgrace, so they understood clearly that something unexpected must have happened. In the group chat, Mu Yunying was the first to speak up and apologize. Ge Kai's death was a heavy blow to her credibility, and it caused more people in the group to lean towards supporting Ningqiu Shui's team, because previously, Ningqiu Shui's team of only 4 had kept Ge Kai safe for a full day and a half. In the message, Mu Yunying recounted the entire incident that had occurred. Bai Xiaoxiao sighed. As expected, something bad happened. Chu Shui, you were right. The second ability that the head raiser ghost awakened is mouth. Feng Wanming asked in surprise. Chu Shui Ge, how did you know in advance? Ning Chu Shui opened a bottle of mineral water, took a sip, and then said, 4 people, corresponding to 4 types of abilities. So I had a thought. Could the ability that the ghost awakens be related to these people? Everyone pondered what Ning Chu Shui had just said. Feng Wanming asked in confusion, related to the 4 people? How so? Ning Chu Shui glanced at Feng Wanming and patiently explained, why did the ghost kill Youwen first? Because it hated her the most. So she was the direct murderer who killed Wang Chengshu. That's also why she saw many details that others didn't know and why she became even more afraid and regretful. After listening to Ning Chu Shui's explanation, they vaguely understood. Bai Xiaoxiao said, Chu Shui, do you mean judging based on the level of hatred? Ning Chu Shui nodded. Let's try analyzing it this way. Yue Wen is the person the ghost hates the most, because she personally killed it, witnessed its death. So after killing Yue Wen, the ghost likely awakened either its hand or eye, and it chose the eye. Wang Zhen is the third person the ghost hated, initial state. After killing him, the ghost awakened its mouth. Thus, it can be inferred that Wang Zhen was the one who spread false rumors and lured the ghost into a trap. Ge Kai is the second person the ghost hated, initial state. He committed more heinous acts than Wang Zhen, but wasn't the direct perpetrator. So he might be the mastermind, the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. After killing Ge Kai, the ghost would likely awaken its hand or mouth. But since the mouth is already awakened, after killing Ge Kai, the ghost will awaken its hand. Hearing this, everyone's expression shifted, but Feng Wanming stared at the phone in his hand, speaking doubtfully. But Chu Shui Gi, no one in the group chat has reported losing a ghost artifact yet, right? They all think the ghost has awakened its leg. Bai Xiaoxiao seemed to catch on and spoke up. You're wrong, Feng Wanming. Feng Wanming was startled, looking at her. Wrong where? Bai Xiaoxiao explained. If it were you, would you immediately use the power of the hand? Feng Wanming answered without hesitation. Of course I'd use it right away. The sooner you use it, the sooner it cools down. Bai Xiaoxiao shook her head. If I were the ghost, I wouldn't use it so hastily. Right now, there are 15 of us left, with 15 ghost artifacts. Barring unforeseen circumstances, at least 12 are usable. The cooldown for the hand is 1 day. Even if the ghost maximizes its use, it can only steal 4 of our ghost artifacts. If it saves this opportunity, wouldn't that be better? Hearing this, Feng Wanming suddenly understood, a chill running down his spine. He muttered, if the ghost doesn't use the hand power right away, waiting for a critical moment, it could render the most important ghost artifact useless. Bai Xiaoxiao nodded. Finally, you get it. The ghost in this crimson door, after being blocked by a ghost artifact, falls into a stunned state for a period of time. Otherwise, the night before, after the dagger broke the sealed space, that ghost wouldn't have stood dumbfounded in the bathroom, not bothering to chase us. It must have been controlled by a ghost artifact for a while. During that time, its target of hatred shifted due to some incident, and it went after Wang Zhen. This proves that ghost artifacts still have a certain effect on this Crimson Door's ghost. They're our lifeline. But the problem is, if that ghost has already awakened the hand power but isn't using it, it means the next time it strikes at its final target, Guan Guan, whether it uses its hand or not, we have to sacrifice 2 ghost artifacts to stop it. In this case, our consumption rate of ghost artifacts will double. It can afford to gamble, but we cannot, because we are not allowed to lose. Once the final target dies, not only will the ghost become complete, but it will also start hunting us. Bai Xiaoxiao had explained it very clearly. Having a sword in hand but not using it, and not having a sword in hand at all, are 2 completely different things. Damn it, I initially thought this skill was useless. I never expected it to be this terrifying. Feng Yuanming's eyes widened in shock. The ghost only needed to hold on to this skill to force them to rapidly consume their precious artifacts. This Crimson Door was truly a nightmare. How could they even fight? With the meager number of ghost artifacts in their hands, having to sacrifice 2 each time, how long could they last? So what do we do now? Just wait to die? Feng Yuanming was in despair. He had been wrong. He really shouldn't have stepped through this door. At this moment, he only wanted to write his last will and testament right there. In his desperation, he placed his final hope on the trio of Ningqiu Shui. After 2 short days of living together, he had discovered that these 3 were far from ordinary. Following them, perhaps there was still a chance to survive. Old Feng, your reputation in the group chat isn't bad. Quickly send a message to them, tell them Chu Shui's deductions, and let them be on their guard. No matter what, we can't let Guangguan die too fast. Right, remember to use your own name. Don't mention us. Bai Xiaoxiao instructed Feng Yuanming, who nodded hastily and began composing the message. Then she turned to look at Liang Yan, who was frowning in deep thought. Uncle Yan, why aren't you saying anything? Liang Yan was silent for a moment, then slowly spoke words that sent a chill down the spines of the 3. I'm worried about human nature. If a traitor appears among us, Guangguan might die very quickly. Don't forget that Wang Zhen was the 3rd target of hatred for the Raising Head Ghost, yet he was inexplicably elevated to the 2nd position. I suspect someone might have tampered with things. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to support me.